of Orange landing in Carrickfergus, and commemorating the victory over King James. On the lower left-hand side, you've got relief of Derry banner that basically is when the Catholic Army laid siege to Derry, and several months of starvation took place for the Protestant inhabitants. That was finally broken by relief warships that, this is around 1692 or so, relief warships broke through the barrier erected on the River Foyle, enabling the city to be resupplied, and the starvation ended. That banner commemorates the relief of Derry, and you see on the right-hand side, every year, they would have a march of the Orange Order through Derry and Belfast and other areas in Northern Ireland, celebrating the fact of having their city relieved by British warships and supply ships to feed the starving inhabitants. A third, so you get the Catholics, you get the Protestants, and the third part of the triangle was the British Army. Army control ahead. In the middle upper picture is an armored car, and on the right-hand side was a Ferret, which is a British armored scout car. To the lower left, again, an armored car on patrol in Derry, and on the right was a checkpoint. That vehicle absolutely would have had to have special permission to be there. There's no way in God's earth it otherwise would be there, because anything like that would be a prime way for a bomb to be placed. So no vehicle, unauthorized vehicle, could operate in that street area, and pedestrians would have to go right by where this armored car is. There would have been a checkpoint. You would have had to come into the city. You'd have to be frisked, because again, to keep any potential weapons out of the city center. Bloody Sunday. In 1972, there was illegal but peaceful march in Derry protesting internment. The British sent in paratroopers to break up that march, which is kind of like sending in Green Beret. These troops, these soldiers, specially trained soldiers, they're attack shock troops. They're not crowd control. They're not militarized police. They are spearhead shock troops that are trained for battle, not for arrest. In the ensuing melee that followed, 14 civilians were killed, 13 were wounded. The claim was that they were being fired on by the IRA. That was proven not to be the case at all. A year later, there was a 1973 commemorative march remembering those that were killed and wounded. And once again, the Irish tricolor flag led the march. You can see it right here, and you can also see it here as it's going along. So even though the tricolor, which was officially adopted in 1919, when Ireland was able to break away from England, declaring independence, and initially that banner was to represent a sort of reconciliation between the two communities, in the ensuing history that followed and in the Troubles, etc., what was probably meant to be a peaceful and reconciliatory banner was always aligned with and considered part of the Irish struggle for breaking away from England. So it really was not looked upon as a unifying symbol between the two communities. It was always seen, much as the Union Jack was for the Loyalists, the Irish tricolor was obviously and always affiliated to this day with the Nationalists. This would be another banner. And actually, I'm going to ask, as far as the recording, if there's any way not to show this particular image. I don't know if that's the case. I explained in a very long-standing issues, and it needed good faith on both sides to resolve. It was not going to be resolved then, but it was in essence a truce, stopping the violence, stopping the killing. Let's try to find a way out of this, even if we don't have the solution now. As part of the agreement, paramilitary groups on both sides, that's the IRA on one side and the UDA, UFF, UVF, et cetera, on the other, agreeing to, quote, decommission, put their weapons out of use. And as part of that agreement, also the British Army withdrew, and it became back to the police as far as maintaining civil order. I was back in there in 2016. My wife and I had a wonderful trip to the United Kingdom. I had a chance to get back to Derry, and the contrast was striking between when I was there before and they're in 2016. On the left-hand side, they call these a sixer. This is a much more heavily armored car. It's got 6 wheels. You see the back door is open. That's so the soldier can make sure nobody tries to come up to this vehicle and attack from behind. You also have a machine gun in the front. That's in 1974. In 2016, what do you have instead? You have a tour bus. I even went to the tour bus driver and explained why I was taking the photograph, because there's no way you would have seen a tour bus in the streets of Derry in 1973 or 1974. On the bottom left, you'd see a British observation post, and that's the bunker right here with a viewing port. This would have been barbed wire. This would have been patrols along the top. No civilian would ever in 73 and 74 been allowed on that rampart. And you've got an observation post there manned by the soldiers 24/7 to keep track of what's going on in the surrounding area. That's 74. What do you have today? Pre-COVID, when it was a lot easier to have tourism in Derry, you have a walking tour of Derry city walls. But the passions still remain to this day and still need to be grappled with. When I was there in 2016, I took that photo on the left. That's the Irish tricolor. There's some additional symbols, but again, you see the green, white, and orange. That is below what had been a Walker's monument during the siege of Derry, the individual that commanded the Protestant forces behind the monument. You don't see much there because I've got a photograph of it from 1973. In 1974, that monument was blown up by the IRA. So you see the Irish tricolor here. This is in the Bogside area, just below the walls. But within a couple of blocks of this Irish tricolor, and this is in 2016, so it's still very much present today, you have, again, you've got, in essence, the Ulster flag with the red hand and the crown, unofficial banner, and you've got the Union Jack. These are separated by only several blocks, so you've got strong passions that remain. And you also see that in 2018, there was a commemoration to the Easter Rising. You've got the harp, which had been one of the flags throughout history.
That isn't a plow.
That's the plow.
And the plow, the Northern Star. And you've got the tricolor. So this would be a breakoff group, perhaps, from the IRA. You've got real IRA and you've got other splinter groups. But in any event, these would be masked individuals recognizing the Easter Rising commemoration. I didn't take this picture. I got this off the web, but these other pictures I've taken. And then on the loyalist side, once again, you see flags, whether they are actual flags or murals or flags depicted in a mural showing the Union Jack. So flags may remain very, very powerful imagery on where one's loyalties lie. So it's hopeful with what had been the peace accord in 1988, it's hopeful that there will be a bright future. Derry or Londonderry, depending upon where you stand, is a beautiful city. It always has been. It's the location of it, River Foyle, et cetera, has always geographically been a beautiful area. And the warm, generous people I met when I was there, and even when I was there initially in 73, met really wonderful people committed towards final reconciliation between the Catholic and nationalist and Protestant loyalist communities. One real quick aside, when I was doing youth work, I met a 14-year-old boy who was a youth worker along with me in this group, and he had been beaten up by or threatened by other Protestant students because he had Catholic friends. And this 14-year-old boy told me in quiet courage, nobody dictates to me who my friends are. And it's these individuals that can really represent the kinds of people yearning for a peaceful, ultimate, final reconciliation. And if that takes place, perhaps there will be a new flag, whether it's official or symbolic, that recognizes the heritage and culture of both communities and gives respect to both communities, but also looks towards a bright common future. And Jack, I don't know if there's any time for any questions, but I'm also mindful of your time overall for today's discussions, but I wanted to share that with you folks. And hopefully the article itself, if it goes through approval, getting into much more detail on history, et cetera, will be out perhaps in the fall. That anecdote I told you about my courage/stupidity doesn't get into a lot of the article, but I wanted to share that with you folks today, kind of some backstory to that one image of the Sinn Féin banner.
Thank you, John. If people would raise their hands if they have questions, either using the reaction button or Dings. Gus, I'm going to start with you. Gus, you can unmute.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, John. Just to clarification, when we see the flag with the cross of St. George and a white background, that will be the official flag of Northern Ireland. And the one with the yellow background, still with the red hand, that will be what? The historical flag? What is, just briefly, what is the difference? One is popular, the other is official?
The yellow flag with the cross is actually and thank you for bringing the question up. It's the historical flag of there are 4 provinces in Ulster that I showed you from the early image. What it is, and it is to this day, and that's actually, that is the entire province that covers both Northern Ireland and part of the Republic. Donegal, where that photograph was taken, is actually in the Republic, but the province of Ireland spans both areas, and that is the ancient province flag of Ulster. That's Ulster, Leinster, Munster, and Connaught. That's the flag of Ulster that actually covers both the Republic and Northern Ireland as an historic flag.
Thank you. You clarified something very important. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? If not,
Hey, Jack, the only thing I would offer in the editing, and maybe I'm being paranoid, but literally when you see that banner with the people that are holding it, if that part can be excised out, and the reason being, to this day, there may be some sensitivity because there is certainly sensitivity in taking that photograph originally. When you see the article, it's going to show the banner. It's not going to show the people. So that close up,
I
if
will
that
be
part can be-
able to edit that out, John.
you will?
I will be able to edit that out. And as soon as I get a chance to do my Zoom tutorials, I'll figure out how to get the recordings up on the website.
Thanks, Jack.
If anyone is really good at that, let me know. But Zoom has a tutorial that I'm going to take at the beginning of April.
Thank you, Jack.
Good. Well, that was fascinating. And now we go to a completely different part of the world.
I think George has a question though. I think George has a question before.
I didn't see George. Wait a minute. Where are you? Do you raise? Oh, there you go. Sorry. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to John, I love the topic that you've chosen: flags that unite and flags that divide. It sort of raises the question as to what flags are battle flags actually. It seems that with the Trump base, they have made an art form out of flag waving and gotten massive media attention over those flags. It's just been a remarkable experience to see that in action. And I'm waiting for the response from the other side of the partisan divide, because flags are just, what the Trump base did was just point out how incredibly significant flag waving is.
And that's why when I was doing research for the article and for today's talk, I came across something on the internet. There has been discussion of trying to come up with in Northern Ireland a flag that is not going to be inflammatory, but recognizes perhaps some of the beautiful scenery or something that everybody can agree to. Because you're right that there's a lot of passion behind flags, and they have to be very careful, because if they've got something that is going to be insulting to either side, it'll never be accepted.
It's brilliant, and something that I think any vexillologist would want to analyze in the future, because to me the power, the significance of the flag is contemporary. It's not historic so much. I believe flags are power tools, and we shouldn't be afraid to use them. And anyway, thank you.
That's great. Robert, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I would actually listen to him talk about the Trump movement and their use of flags. I would actually think that might be a counter movement to the other side's use of flags, where you have things like the rainbow flag and various other kinds of ethnic pride flags and of political flags and that sort of thing have been widespread for a while on the left side. And I think that the right might have just adopted it after seeing how effective it was. I think we all know, like if you walk into a business and you see a little pride flag, it just immediately tells you something about that business.
Yeah.
And I think that's where.
I think it's interesting that that's communication seems to be what flags are all about. From the semaphore flags to the national flags, it's, you know, flags are all about communication, and communication's all about education and unity and so forth.
I do find it really interesting. The thing that kind of got me into flags was how you can have one symbol. You know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but you know, a lot of times a flag will show stuff that you can't really put into words.
Yeah,
You know,
different. It's interpreted differently by each individual.
There's a lot of emotion that's behind it.
Absolutely.
A lot of emotions behind it.
Al, I want to ask you, if they're talking about flags and current events, Al, are you selling a lot of Ukrainian flags?
Of course, like every flag business everywhere, you could have sold as many as you could have gotten, but there's not a factory in the country that has any. So the factories are all sewing just to fill orders. So anything that they sew goes into a box for somebody who's already got orders. But yeah, we were able to get some, and it's been a nice, very positive event too. We get a lot of big rushes on flag sales that you don't always like, because sometimes there's a lot of animosity behind a large group suddenly wanting to fly a certain flag. But this is a very positive event. People are very happy to be getting those flags and supporting those people. And you'll notice people around the world are doing it. And if you have time, I've got a little Bexy bit later that illustrates this.
Okay, great. The NBC News in San Antonio did a piece on Dixie Flag Company, interviewed Vanessa Vanderpoot, who's a long-term NAVA member,
Yeah.
and they are completely out. They are sewing 8-10 hours a day,
Yep.
making Ukrainian flags, which
And thank
luckily
goodness-
are easy flags to make.
I was just going to say, we're lucky that it's an easy, yeah. So
Yeah.
Lucky they didn't have to do Turkmenistan.
people make it at home. So
my wife actually sells, she does stickers, bumper stickers, that sort of thing. And right now, the thing she's just producing as many as she can is actually a Ukrainian flag with the coat of arms on it. And she said that it's great because she can make 1,000 of them, you know, just cut one sheet into of blue and one sheet of yellow into 1,000 pieces. And there you go. There's
is the coat of arms the trident? Is that what the
Yeah.
trident is?
yes.
That's the coat. So that's a pretty simple coat of arms, isn't it?
It is, but it's really pretty. It's my
Yeah,
favorite.
so it certainly is, but it's yeah, uniquely, I mean, something I recognize. It's a trident.
It's not really a coat of arms, but it is a symbol of the country. No
Yes.
question.
Okay. Well, so
Yeah, it's the officially it's the princely state symbol of Vladimir the Great, which has been adopted as their coat of arms equivalent.
So let me ask you, so the bicolor, that's the official government flag used at the United Nations. So is the version with the trident what we would call a civil flag, like Venezuela has 2 versions of their flag?
I have not been able to find, other than as a recently it popping up as a symbol of resistance to the invasion. I have not actually found any usage of that, the coat of arms on the flag, predating this.
Well,
I'm
it's
sure it
been-
exists.
Yeah, the flag has been around for forever. I mean,
Right, but I'm saying the actual use of the trident on the flag, which
that's
you're
what I
seeing-
mean, the trident on the flag, that's been around for many years. It's nothing new right now. I just don't know what its function is otherwise in the terms of their good usage. So, but people like both versions. It's not like one represents one side and one represents the other side, right?
It's like the Polish with or without the eagle.
Right, okay.
I wonder if
That's-
I wonder if the government collapses and that, or a large portion of Ukrainian government collapses, that you don't see the growth of something that is a little bit more substantive, like something like that, where, if people begin to associate something a little bit more legitimate and a little more change and saying, we have our own distinct history. Here's this Trident thing that you may not have heard about. I wonder if something like that would happen. Because
Why would it happen? It exists now.
it's not in the public eye here in the U.S. space. The only thing
Yeah.
people aren't educated on that. They don't. This is the first I'm hearing of it. I've never even heard of anything like this.
You never saw the Trident?
Oh,
Never.
I've seen the Trident all the time.
Oh,
Not-
yeah.
Not to make myself sound like smart or whatever, but I've seen the Trident before. I mean, I have no idea what it symbolizes. It's just a nice design. And I have Ukrainian friends that like are in my club, and I probably should ask them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's been around since before 1918, but 1918 is when it became very, very popular.
Anthony Morales, have you seen a lot of the flag with the trident?
Mostly in pictures with protesters, but flying here, mostly we just see the plain blue and gold.
Okay.
And
a
we're actually
reminder-
seeing it flying a lot with alongside the Polish flag right now. So
Okay, thank you. Well, we're going to switch, I was going to say, from Northern Ireland to the Middle East by way of Ukraine. So Dominic Vernicioni is our next presenter. Dominic, if you want to share the screen, you feel free.
Okay. I'm going to do that right now. So yeah, just if you guys wanted some extra information, I'm going to be doing this presentation, but I'm going to be reading off this. So I'm going to put this link in the chat if you guys want to read it. It's just basically a document. I don't have any links to any of my sources, but please just understand that most of it's just Wikipedia. I'm not an expert on Kurdish flags, but I've worked a lot with them. So if you guys also would like to have, again, I'm not at the Kurdish Institute any longer. I finished my term in December. However, my longest project, which is going to be 37 pages long, has yet to be released. It'll be released in March. That was the plan originally. And so that's where a lot of my research, my own experience comes upon finding these flags was from that paper. Again, it hasn't been released yet, but I have about 2 papers you see right here. I interviewed a Turkish author, and then this was this right here is why Washington finds foothold in Kurdistan is about 4 articles together about each region of Kurdistan. And if you guys are map buffs, you'll probably be freaking out by this Kurdistan. Yes, I'm the one that made it. No, I don't believe these are actually the borders of Kurdistan, but I was asked to quote unquote exaggerate a little bit. There's a much better version that Kurdistan that I made of Kurdistan. But Yusuf, my former boss, can't work it out on the maps because it's so detailed. I know it's kind of hard to tell from this picture. I guess I can just show you. Just give me 1 second. I individually plotted each point. So this took me months. Again, there's a much better version that exists that he's just not using currently. But yes, I individually plotted each of these points and everything. But yeah, so this is quote unquote Greater Kurdistan, of course. I would say the actual border goes something along the lines of here through Van, and then of course Iraqi Kurdistan is a much less smaller. The Iraqi one is the most accurate. I use the UNHCR data, and the Syria one it's fine. The border for Rojava probably ends just about right here if you can see my cursor. But yeah, so I worked at Washington Kurdish Institute. Please, if you like to read my stuff, again. I love Kurdistan. I'm very lucky to be working at the Washington Kurdish Institute for that semester. I'm kicking myself. I should have gone for another semester. But yeah, this is a great site. If you've never heard of it before, they are a think tank. They're very small, but they've been existing since the 90s. In the 90s, it was very popular for the United States to be supportive of the Kurdish movement, and we've been pretty much supportive ever since. So yeah, these guys are great. I wouldn't even say they're that biased. Again, with Kurdish stuff, you're going to be very anti-Erdogan. You're going to be somewhat critical of the Baghdadi government. You're going to hate Iran and you're going to hate Assad. But when I was writing my paper, I tried to be as partial as I could, and I think I succeeded in that. But I guess that's just my opinion. But again, yeah. So I'll be reading off this on my phone. But we're going to be starting with this presentation here. None of the information. I just gave you guys pictures on the slides because I didn't want to overload with information or anything. But yeah, so here we go. So some of these are going to be fully like proto-Kurdistan flags. We're going to talk about the actual Kurdish flag. I know I can't remember who said that they studied Middle Eastern flags all their life and they're sick of it. Well, now we're going to go back to doing that. So sorry about that. But yeah, so we have the 3 flags here that are, well, first of all, the first 2 on here, I had never heard of before. The 3rd flag on the right, I heard a lot about at my time at the Kurdish Institute. If you guys are wondering, my former boss, Yusuf Ismail, he's Iraqi Kurdish. And he, at the age of 3, Saddam Hussein's troops killed his father. And then he got out of Iraq as soon as he could. So Baathism and all that bleeds a lot into Kurdish history, what flag's okay, what flag is not. And we're going to be doing a lot more of Syria, though. So we got some Iranian stuff here, but most of this is what led to the establishment of the Iraqi autonomous zone, or whatever you want to call the Kurdistan regional government. Their official flag is what's known as the Kurdish flag. Well, how did we get there? So we're starting off early, very early Kurdish history. Never heard of the first flag on the left here. It's funny because it's a crescent moon, but most of what is associated with Kurdishness is the Kurdish sun, right? And you're going to see a sun on almost every other flag here. But yeah, there's the crescent moon on the left. So this is the Kingdom of Kurdistan. It existed from 1919 to 1925. You know, as Sykes-Picot and World War I, early all that history was occurring. Right afterwards, the Middle East was a clusterfluff of different states that wanted to exist. So on the left here, Kingdom of Kurdistan was part of what just became British Mesopotamia, British Iraq. So it was a Kurdish state within Iraq that the British entertained for a little bit because, I mean, ever since the early history of the Kurds is interconnected with how much is Europe willing to tolerate the idea of a Kurdish state, right? Because the Kurds don't like the Iraqis, they don't like the Iranians, they don't like the Turks, they don't like the Syrians. They want to be their own thing. And so the history is always like, how much is Europe going to let us do our thing? And for a while, they had a little bit of state going. It was chosen, so the state was started in 1919, but, and again, this was in Iraq. The flag was chosen in 1920, so a year after the state existed, and was flown for 5 more years. And it was chosen by a Turkish Kurdish Society for the Rise of Kurdistan. So even though this place was in Iraq, the Kurds in Turkey were so excited that they were like, we're going to get your flag for you. And so they did. And again, I've never heard of the Society for the Rise of Kurdistan before. They died out right as the state existed. But again, you know, Turkish autonomy has existed for so long. And there's so many different groups, some of them terrorist groups, and we'll get into that. And I will be fully honest, you know, some of these flags are military flags. The Kingdom of Kurdistan considered the crescent flag as the national flag of the Kurds, but that would quickly be reversed to the direct opposite of the sun the entire rest of the history of the Kurdish state. So again, some people see this as the first ever Kurdish flag. Again, I had never seen it before, so I don't know what Kurdish opinions are on it. And I can tell you all the other flags. I can tell you a lot of opinions on that. And again, the second flag here, the Republic of Ararat, or Ararat, this is actually in Turkey. So it existed from 1927 to 1931, the state. It's one of those like students became educated, and that was a bad idea for the Turks, because the Kurds are like, you know what, maybe we want to be smart and lead our own place. So it was a Kurdish secessionist state in eastern Turkey. So we went from Iraq to Turkey again. So all these different Kurdish states are popping up. The idea of pan-Kurdism would kind of start occurring at this time because pan-Arabism was existing. The Kurds were like, maybe we should be doing the same thing. It sounds like a good idea. So right as this state existed, they chose their flag. And this is by the Zoybun, which is, again, just another pan-Kurdish nationalist political party. Again, never heard of them before doing this research. This is fun for me. So what we consider the Republic of Ararat seized control of the town of Ararat, or Ayr, depending on where you're from, and the surrounding area of the Ayr province in the Republic of Turkey. So Turkey existed at this point. And if you know anything about Kemal Ataturk, he was a pretty good guy, besides that whole Kurd thing. He really didn't like him, and he would do whatever he wanted to get that corner of Turkey to be Turkey and not anything else. So, you know, a lot of actually Westerners like Kemal Ataturk. Sorry, does someone have a question? Okay, sorry, maybe I just heard something else. So everyone loves Kemal Ataturk over here for the most part, and he was a very good political leader, but his history with the Kurds are kind of muddled. Some people really don't like him for that. And now, here's the interesting thing about the Republic of Ararat is this flag theoretically existed before the state, but it wasn't made official until 1927. It had been used since Ottoman times to show the wantings of a Kurdish state, but actually no one has an exact date of when it was made. So I'm not going to include that here because I don't really know, and no one else does either. But it was actually a symbol of the the Ottoman crescent moon falling and the Kurdish sun rising, as in the Kurdish state will exist. And that's actually the symbol of what the Kurdish sun will stay as. I actually had never known that. But again, here, really interesting, the sun rays go to all three parts of the tricolor, and that's really important. We'll get into what that is. The amount of rays is significant, but that doesn't come till later. And you're probably wondering, okay, well, I've seen this red, white, and green before, and the symbolism of these colors will stay the same. So red symbolizes the blood of the martyrs. They continue to struggle for freedom and dignity, which of course the Kurds will continue to do for many years. Green expresses the beauty and landscapes of Kurdistan, also for life and vitality. The yellow represents the source of life and light of the people. So not only does the sun have a rising significance, the color is the light of the people. And the sun is also an ancient symbol of the 21 sunbeams that represent March 21st, which is Newroz. So for a lot of Zoroastrian traditions, which is Persia/Iran, Azerbaijan, which, fun fact about me, I actually just celebrated Newroz with the Azerbaijani ambassador on a farm in Damascus, Maryland last week, and I took shots with him. It's a crazy story. Don't know how I really got wrapped up in that, but yeah, I had a great time drinking with the Azerbaijani ambassador on Newroz. It was an early Newroz though. And of course, the Kurds also celebrate Newroz. So the 21 rays of the sun represent March 21st, which is the symbol of the new year. That white tricolor represents peace and peace and equality. Everyone loves peace. Sounds like a pretty good idea. And again, like I said, the 21 also has its own importance. Actually, I had no idea this was even a thing. 21 also stands, the number of rays, the 21st number, stands for Renaissance and the ancient and original Kurdish religion, which is Yazdani. And the number 21 also symbolizes, again, March 21st. So there's a lot of symbolization going on here. So Ararat existed until the year of 1931, when Kemal Ataturk was like, I've had enough of this. Let's stop. Oh, sorry, excuse me. So let's stop with the Kurdish stuff. I've had enough. So no Kurdish state in Iraq, no Kurdish state in Turkey, definitely no Kurdish state in Syria. So what was going on? Well, in 1946, for just less than a year, the Republic of Mahabad existed. Has anyone heard of Mahabad before? It's the first Kurdish state that actually has like Westerners have actually heard of it. If you haven't, that's totally fine. But my boss had talked about it all the time. This is what I actually consider that most Kurds believe was the real first Kurdish state, even though it existed for only less than a year, and these other ones existed for many years. Maybe it's just because Barzani had a lot to do with it, and people love Barzani, some don't, whatever. But yeah, so this was a pro-Soviet state, secessionist state that seceded from Iran. And this also closely parallels Azerbaijani history, if anyone knows a little bit about that, is that the original Azerbaijan wasn't Soviet, it was Iranian, that was Soviet supported. So Azerbaijan and Mahabad, again, just another Kurdish state, were both like, you know what, Iran sucks, the Soviets are awesome, communism is great, let's go. And they seceded. It didn't really work out too well for them because they were entirely reliant on Soviet support. For the Kingdom of Kurdistan and Republic of Ararat, they had, a little bit of autonomy within their decision making. Well, for these places, if they wanted to exist, Iran was really trying to make sure they didn't, and the Soviets were kind of like, yeah, maybe we'll help you out. So again, to talk more about the flag here, Ararat flag was modified to be super communist, which you can see here. It is. It's a little bit darker green, but most of the colors stay the same. And again, it was an autonomy for the Iranian Kurds within the Iranian state that then seceded due to Soviet support. When the Soviets left, it very quickly fell. And again, this is not much to say other than that it's the most communist Middle Eastern flag I've seen, except for the Afghanistan flags that are super red and communist. Other than that, this is the super it looks like something you find in Europe. And again, this is the like Mahabad state. If no one knew, this is more historical than flag information. This is like the first Kurdish state. Everyone remembers Mahabad. It was supposed to be great, and then it wasn't. So before we get on to the modern Kurdistan flag, I wanted to talk about the Democratic Party of Iranian Kurdistan. This is the little bit of Iran that you'll get today, other than Mahabad. And again, Iranian Kurds are really hard to come by. When I was working at the Washington Kurdish Institute, I actually met the U.S. representative of the DPIK or DBKI. It kind of depends, changes the word in the spelling. But there's a different political party that sounds very similar. So we're definitely talking about the Democratic Party of Iranian Kurdistan here. And again, their flag Rarely seen at all. I only saw it because I met Arash Salah, who was the U.S. representative, and I came and we did an interview with each other. And I thought this would just be another fun thing to include. Again, it's a mountain with a book behind it. Again, this picture's kind of blurry because there isn't really a good one to show. But there's a gear and there's wheat. Again, it's just Iranian Kurdish politics, kind of like a leftover from what we know as the Republic of Mahabad. And then I know you can't really see it, but below the book in Persian, the Persian number system is 1324. And I literally can't find out why it's 1324. And I've researched as much as I could, but I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe it's the date. I can't really find anything other than that was the year that Marco Polo died. I don't think that has anything to do with Iranian Kurdistan. But yeah, they do have their own flag. But more often than not, you're probably common just to see the emblem, just this. Sometimes the sky is blue behind it. Sometimes it's gray. But the flag theoretically does exist. These guys are pretty nice. But if you guys do want to know more about the history, they aren't allowed to work in Iranian Kurdistan anymore or Kurdistan at all. These guys actually operate out of Iraq. And so they work with a lot with the Iraqi Kurds. Kind of a point of contention, though, because if Iraq wants to mess with the United States troops and if Iran wants to mess with the Iraqi troops and U.S. troops in Iraq, they'll be like, you guys are housing terrorists. You guys are housing these political parties that we banned, and now we're going to bomb you, which wouldn't be great, but that's what Iran does, right? So, okay, so now we have the modern Kurdistan flag. Of course, show of hands if people have seen this flag before. This is the super common one. You're going to see this all the time. For Christmas, my grandparents got me. You guys know those little like flags you'll find on the dash of car. Like they have like the little yellow threads you'll see on cars. My grandparents actually got me this flag. And I'm very hesitant to because I'm not Kurdish, so I think it's kind of inappropriate for me to put. I could put it in my car if I really wanted to. So yeah, this is again. This is the modern Kurdish sun. This is the modern Kurdish flag. Now the Kurdistan regional government existed starting in 1992 after years of movement and all that. And this is the most popular Kurdish flag of all time. It's flown in all areas of Greater Kurdistan. Even though the Kurdish KRG existed in 1992, this flag was chosen in 1999. Fun fact, it's actually it was made by a Kurdish historian. And if you're looking at my notes, that the one link that I gave was this person. I had never heard of him before. His name is Mirdad Izadi. Seemed like a nice guy. He was like, you know what? Excuse me. We need a new Kurdish flag. And you know what? I need help. I need help from the British Flag Institute. And again, this is a very funny story. In the article that I've linked, he basically goes into full detail how the Kurds really wanted a lot of things about the flag, and the British Flag Institute had a lot of things to say that they didn't like. So they basically said that, oh, you're essentially, they said your designs suck. The yellow sun should only stay within the white tricolor band, but we know why you guys want to use it for all, to have reaching all into three. And so basically, Mirdad Izadi and the British Flag Institute were fighting with each other over what the flag should look like. But they finally settled on the design, and that's the design that we have today. Keeping the 21 rays of the sun, even though the British Flag Institute, were being very snarky. They were like, you should keep it 20 because it's easier to produce flags that have 20 instead of 21 or some odd number versus even number. And I guess the Brits were being, I guess, a little passive aggressive. Again, very funny to me. But they kept the design with the sun reaching all three bands of the tricolor to represent the Kurdish state, reaching all of its principles. Instead of just saying within peace, vitality, the Kurdish sun represents the struggle for independence, the beautifulness of the Kurdish state, et cetera, et cetera. And again, the symbols of the colors remain the same from the Republic of Ararat from 1927. Yeah. So moving on now, so we're going to do some Kurdish military flags. Does anyone have any questions? We're about halfway done. If I'm talking too fast, let me know. Sorry. But yeah, if not, we will be going on to our. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were talking about the dates underneath, that one on that one flag, did you consider it was maybe the using the Islamic calendar, which would put that date sometime in the 20th century?
You know what? That is an amazing idea. And no, definitely not. Yeah, that's actually very interesting. Thank you. I didn't think about that.
If you don't mind me asking, what was that date?
Well, I don't know what you'd have to give me the date. What would it be in the 19th century? Sorry.
No, I know, but like, what was the Islamic date that you, or what was the number date?
1324. 1324.
1324. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 1906 in the Gregorian calendar from the Hijri calendar. So, yep.
Well, I'll take a look at that afterwards, and I'll try to find 1906 would probably be more plausible for a important date within Kurdish-ness, right?
Yeah,
Um,
Nate's got his hand up.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nate would. Yeah,
Oh, can you see it? Okay, good.
yeah.
Are there any other tricolor flags where they have that symbol in the middle that reaches all the bars? Because I see most flags just keep it inside the middle stripe.
You mean with Kurdish Suns?
No, like any emblem, as long as it like any emblem that reaches all three stripes in the flag. It seems like more of a unique thing.
Yeah, well, usually people like the idea of people like to, I don't even know how to say this. It's like a more aesthetically pleasing for the center thing to stay within the center of the tricolor. I don't know, for the Kurds, it's always been like the idea of the Kurdish sun is the most Kurdish thing ever, right? So it reaches all three. I can't really think of anything else that that goes beyond those bounds.
The interim flag, the national flag of Malawi that lasted for a couple of
Yes.
years in the 90s also had the sun in all
Yes.
three, covering all three stripes.
Yes, I'm a big Malawi flag fan. I like that flag.
Oh, and
Um,
just, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, please go ahead. Yeah.
And just to throw a little bit more confusion in, the Iranians have their own calendar system, and 1324 in the Iranian calendar would be 1946.
Okay, so that's the Republic of Mahabad then, right? So there you go. So now we figured it out. So yeah, that was the date that the Mahabad Republic was founded. So it just kind of shows that after the Mahabad Republic, collapsed, again, the Iranian Kurds, continued to, try and find a home, and so they became a political party. So that makes sense. Well, thank you so much. Wow, you guys are good at that. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say about this Kurdish flag. You're bound to find this wherever you go. Fun fact is that there's only 2 flags you can legally fly in Iraqi Kurdistan. There's this one and another one that I don't have in this presentation. I'll show you at the end. That's actually one of the former flags of Iraq in the mid 40s. So now we're going to the YPG, YPJ, SDF. So full caution. This is again, I am not a full-fledged YPG supporter, because wherever you are in Syria, you're going to get, they're all theoretically, there's at least one country that considers all the people there, whether you're an Assad fan, which of course I hope you probably wouldn't be, if you're a Syrian opposition fan, or if you're a YPG fan, all of them use child soldiers. All of them are, do what we consider terrorist things, kill civilians, car bombs, all that good stuff. If you want my formal opinion, because I have been writing on Syria for a lot of my time, and again, the YPG are the Kurdish faction. They are the US supported faction. I think out of all 3 in Syria, these are going to be the best that you're going to get. Syrian opposition use a lot of ISIS soldiers. Assad just kind of sucks. Chemical weapons aren't great. But again, I don't want you guys coming from the presentation being like, oh, the YPG are amazing and they're super clean. And they're not. The YPG do a lot of bad stuff, but I'm sure you're probably already familiar with that. Just wanted to let you guys know. So, okay, well, these are the military flags. Again, the triangles. You really don't see triangle flags too much, but so the YPG, their old flag is this red one here. The red flag was used from 2011 to 2013. I can't actually explain to you what the symbolism of the star is. I've really tried finding it. It could just be, the wanting of a Kurdish state in Syria. And then from 2011 to 2013, and then this yellow flag here was used unofficially from 2012-ish, 2011, 2012-ish. And then it was officially mandated as the official Kurdish flag in 2013 and has been the same since then. But, like I said, with all of these things, the YPG, YPJ flags are more common to be flown. And I know we have the SDF flag over here, Syrian Defense Forces. Those are more likely to be on patches. You're more likely to see those on patches on soldiers' arms. But again, because these flags are easy to flag versus triangles, you're going to get that too. And again, if you've ever heard of the YPG, they're basically just a group trying to find Kurdish independence in Syria. They are not supported by the PKK, which almost everyone agrees is a terrorist organization. Those guys are out of Turkey. And originally, the YPJ founding, yes, we're funded by the PKK. And depending who you ask, they don't fund them anymore, and they're their own organization, and they now, more autonomize themselves within the SDF organization. Again, Turks are going to tell you there's no way. They're definitely all just PKK to me. And if you're a U.S. general that doles out money, they're like, oh, no, these guys are great. So again, you're going to get 2 stories like that. Now talking about the YPJ, some of the coolest people ever, in my personal opinion. The YPJ are seriously, they kick butt. and they're a primarily Kurdish, exclusively female militia active in Syria. This has been their official flag. It was created and mandated as official in 2013. Again, really also don't know the symbolism, but if you guys don't know the YPJ, look them up because they are seriously some of the most hardest working people ever. I've never met any of them, but I have heard a lot about them. Now, below us is the Syrian Democratic Forces flag. This is an alliance of Syrian militias in primarily northeastern Syria, and they're kind of like the military branch of the AANES, which I have worked with them before. AANES are awesome people. Ilham Ahmed is the president, and we'll get to her in just a second. She's awesome. I've met her in person. So SDF, so these are the militia. This is their flag. Again, notice the river dividing the Syria. And again, if you guys don't know where all the Kurds are in Syria, it's mostly past the river here. It's definitely this little triangle area. And I mean, if you're really Kurdish or a dentist, you'll say everywhere east of this river, but the Deir el-Zor tribes would disagree with you.
What river is that? The Euphrates?
Yes. Euphrates River, yes, sir. Again, so there's a lot of tribes on this river called, it's a town, it's called Deir el-Zor, and they're neither Kurd fans or Assad fans, but still the Kurds like to think that they're pro-Kurd, and that's stupid. But yeah, so if you're saying, well, what languages are these? This is Arabic, I almost said Iraqi, Arabic, and then it's in Kurdish, and then it's in classical Syriac. And we'll get into why, okay, well, what's with the Syriac ordeal? We'll get into that. But there's more than just Kurds in northeastern Syria, and there's also more than just Kurdish fighters in the SDF. So to properly represent all of what is Rojava or northeastern Syria, and all of the names are, differ greatly. They have the classical Syriac for the Assyrians that are on here. And of course, there's a lot of Assyrian troops, not Syrian, but Assyrian or Syriac, depending on who you ask. Fighters in there. So again, like this flag is basically just to symbolize where Kurdistan is, or Syrian Kurdistan is. And also just another fun fact, the YPJ and YPG officially joined the SDF in 2017. So you'll see a lot of SDF flag patches on their shoulders when they're fighting. And you can actually get some of those on eBay. Don't know how ethical that is because, hopefully it's not from dead people that they steal the patches from, but it could be. Moving on, so now we're going to be officially talking about northeastern Syria. So this is the political element of northeastern Syria. This is what I know pretty much the most about because this is what I had written about, right? So I did the history of northeastern Syria. Specifically, I wrote that 37 long page paper that hasn't been published yet was about Afrin, which is a city in Syria. And I'll just quickly cover over that. So Syria was invaded. The city of Afrin was invaded in 2018 by the Turkish military under the guise of Operation Peace Spring, Operation Olive Branch, excuse me. There's a lot of olives in the Afrin area, so olive branches are seen. Well, also as seen as a symbol of peace, but also because the Turks wanted olives and all that. So that was the basis of my historical paper there. So I covered the pre-invasion, during the invasion, and afterwards, and of course the AANES, the northeastern Syria, was what Afrin was part of. And again, so the history gets very complicated, so I'm not going to go over it. So people in Syria wanted to rule themselves. So just as soon as the Syrian civil war started, a bunch of Kurds were like, you know what, we're going to make our own state and it's going to be great. And so originally the leaders of the movement was the Tev Dem slash Rojava. So they called themselves the Rojavans, or they said we're the leaders of the movement of Tev Dem, we're students of Tev Dem. And so they started flying this flag. You don't really find it too much today, but you're going to find it sometimes. It is a unique looking tricolor, but actually what it is, it's literally just the Kurdish tricolor, but instead of the white, they used the yellow of the Kurdish sun as the tricolor band. So the symbolisms in the color symbolism stay the same. There's just no white. So there's no peace, but there's still the Kurdish sun, which I think is funny. So yeah, this was started as some cities became autonomizing themselves because Assad had left the area to fight the other anti-Assad Syrians. Assad basically said, you know what, you guys are just going to do your own thing. I really don't care about the Kurds, so please just rule yourselves, and please don't be terrorists, Assad basically said. And so the Kurds are like, that's great. We're just going to do our own thing, and screw you, Assad, we don't like you, so it's glad that we're not going to have to fight you. Again, they would fight later, though. So they started flying this flag. And again, it was the early symbol of Rojava. To this day, though, the Tev Dem movement still exists. This is still their flag, but the AANES has really overtaken the official political representation of Rojava. And again, if I'm saying all these words and they don't make sense, that's because Syria is confusing, so you're not alone. Again, so those colors are meant to symbolize Syria. Now, this middle flag I had actually never seen before. This is what I'm assuming from probably as early as 2012, 2013. That's my ballpark year, but there is no official year. This was the flag that the AANES was using in European countries and the US to basically politically represent them. And this is until 2018. I had never seen this flag before. Again, it wasn't flown in Syria. It was only specifically flown in areas outside of Syria that they were representing themselves. So again, it's actually extremely close, like extremely clear and almost an exact copy of the Afrin flag. So the way Rojava worked was there's basically about 7 or 8 regions that committed to an association, and that was like the federal body. And so Afrin was a town, Jajiza was a town, and more and more would grow until 2018 when Afrin was invaded, but then other areas south grew. So it kind of lost area, kind of gained area. So all of those towns had flags, and I actually had no idea about that, but this was the one that was flown. At the time, at the beginning of Rojava, there were only 3 cantons, as what they were called back in the day. And so those 3 were meant to symbolize Jazeera, I think it was Jablus and Afrin, but I could be wrong with the third one. So that's what those 3 stars represent. And at the center of it is a Kurdish sun, which, you know, the Kurds were the primary ethnic identity of Rojava at that time. So the Kurdish flag is at the center. But you will quickly find that in Rojava, they quickly abandoned that because Rojava is just more than Kurds. It's Chaldean Armenians, it's Assyrians, it's Arabs, it's everyone. So the Kurdish sun was quickly ditched because Rojava wanted to properly represent everyone in the federation. Okay, moving on, and yeah, and also there's the olives that are olive branches that are surrounding the Kurdish sun. Now, the most important flag. I've seen this flag a bajillion times when I was at the Washington Kurdish Institute. I'm a big AANES fan. I think they're really great. If no one has seen or heard of the AANES before, this is what we support in the Kurdish Civil War. We continue to support them politically. It's basically a quasi-autonomous state. So it's an autonomous state that works autonomously, but is not supported by the Syrian government because Assad was like, wait a second, I've been completely ignoring all the Kurds. And now they've actually formed a really well-working democracy that affirms gender rights, democratic rights, all that stuff. And he was like, you know what, that's probably not a good idea. I don't want to give them too much power. So we started fighting with them. And so now, you know, the Russians support Assad and we support the ANES. And so it gets really bloody. And the Turks also support Syrian opposition. So these guys officially redid their constitution in 2018, became the AANES. They had a bajillion different names before 2018, but, you know, throughout it all, they've always been Rojava. Rojava is also a town. It's the capital of the AANES, but you know, you could call Rojava and AANES the same thing because they are the autonomous administrations of northeastern Syria. That's the name. It's got a beautiful flag. The flag and the emblem are the same thing. You find the emblem, you put it on a white flag, and that's the flag. You're probably wondering, well, there's a lot going on here. Well, that's true. So at the center of it, you see the Arabic. It's below those 7 red stars, excuse me. And that's in Arabic, it's autonomous administration. And then surrounded by that in 4 languages, Arabic, Kurdish, which is the Kurmanji dialect, classical Syriac, and Turkish. So they included Turkish this time, as opposed to the SDF with non-Turkish on it. It's supposed to send a message that we don't like the Turks. But of course, there's a lot of Turks that exist within the ANES, and they wanted to be fair and politically represent them. So the center of it is Arabic, and it is autonomous administration. So we've removed the Kurdish center, and we've included the Arabic center. Because at the end of it all, what the AANES wants is just federal autonomy within a Assad-led state, which Assad still rejects the idea of because Assad's a prick, in my personal opinion. Anyway, so again, autonomous administration in the center, and then in all 4 languages, it says, in all 4 languages, autonomous administration of northeast Syria, or north and east Syria, depending on the language, because sometimes they want to include the and there. So it has an emphasis on all cultures besides just Kurdish. Now, at this point, since 2018, there's 7 cantons or 7 regions within northeastern Syria. So there's 7 stars. So that's what the 7 red stars represent. And there's wheat and olive branches, which are the main product of the region. The blue color represents the Euphrates River, and the yellow represents the permanent spring of the region and the bountiful nature of the area. And that is that. So if you are going to get any flag that sends a message, the AANES is the flag you get. And I wish I got one. I actually met the president of the organization, and yes, it's a woman. Her name's Ilham Ahmed. She is amazing. She's super cool. She came to the Washington Kurdish Institute with about 6 or 7 of the head representatives of each region. And they came in to talk about what the Biden administration would be doing with the AANES. Because the Trump administration basically pulled out of Syria, and AANES lost a lot of its territory. It's working on getting a lot of that back. And then Trump decided not to pull out fully, and it was kind of a disaster for the Kurds. But even though we can betray the Kurds a million times, they're always going to support us, which I think is kind of ridiculous because we've hurt them so many times. But whatever. So yeah, this is a great flag. I love it. I rank it even though it looks kind of ugly, I rank it a 9 out of 10 because its symbolism is unity, and it does a lot of that, right? Okay, just 2 more flags here. So let's say we're going to give you a little story here. Let's say you're stuck in Syria, which I hope you don't go to. So you see 2 blue flags, right? So, and these are very, very, very specific flags that I only know about because of my intense research. So you see these 2 flags. One has a tiger and one has an eagle. So if you're just a regular classic American and you don't like Assad and you're not an Assad troop or anything, so if you see this blue eagle here, this is the Asayish flag, and I will tell you to run towards that flag if you're in times of need. This is the internal security forces of the Rojava police force. So basically, it's just a police flag, and I gave this information to y'all because I figured you would like it. It's the most detailed, minute flags you could ever find in the region. There's actually 2 flags that exist, one that has Arabic on it and one that doesn't. So the Asayish is just Kurdish, I think, for just police. And it was officially adopted in 2018 alongside the changes to the AANES. So it's a very specific flag. But of course, in some regions of AANES, they're more Arab than Kurdish, or they're just non-Kurdish. So they wanted to include the Arabic and have the Kurdish, and some regions don't want the Kurdish at all. So they ban the Kurdish and just have the Arabic on it. So you're gonna have 2 versions of that flag existing. The one on Wikipedia does have the Kurdish on it below it. So yeah, in Arabic, it says internal security force. So these are like the police of the AANES. In some regions though, where Turkish forces have invaded, the Asayish become a militia because they're no longer official in the region, and they become like militia instead of actual police. But they still police those regions theoretically, but underground, and protect Kurdish people from getting assaulted by Turkish forces. That's a good flag. Well, let's say you're in Syria, specifically if you're in Afrin, which is totally overrun by Turkish and Turkish-supported militia. If you see this flag on the right, well, I would tell you to run away because they are a absolute one of the worst of the worst terrorist groups. So this is a Kurdish terrorist group. If you look it up on Wikipedia, they're called the Wrath of Olives Operations Room. I don't know where the Operations Room name comes in because they're not in an operations room. They're just a terrorist group. And I would actually just call them Wrath of Olives. So ever since Turkey completely overrun the Kurdish state of Afrin, these people have basically, you know what, we're just going to go kill everyone. So they're not only just targeting Turkish militia. If you were like, you know what, like I have to pay the Turkish military money or else they'll kill my son. Well, the Wrath of Olives would see that as you supporting the Turkish state, and they would literally just kill you. So they've done car bombs, they've done kidnappings, and so while the YPG, also does, like they will assault Turkish militia, and what they see as Turkish invaders. These guys will literally just kill you, and it doesn't really matter. And so these people, they're the worst of the worst. In Arabic, it says Wrath of Olives or Olives Wrath. Again, because Afrin was such an olive tree area zone, and the Turks went in and cut down all of the olive trees, or they heavily taxed the farmers there. It's a really terrible operation. I wrote a lot about it in my paper. So it's a tiger rising from the olive tree, so it won't get cut down, and they will bring wrath upon anyone who supports the Turkish state. Now, it's actually not an official flag, but it's an official emblem. But I mean, it's just as easy to just put on a piece of paper and call it a flag. And you'll probably see this waving, but most likely not because they're super underground. But if you do see this anywhere, please do not stay in that area. You would probably die. They are YPG associated, but the US has kind of told them to screw off because it's kind of a bad image on the US for the US to be supporting something like this. But it's just, just another, hard part of how messed up Syria is and how complicated it is. Yeah, but if you see this flag, please run away. And then, like I said, there's just one more flag I wanted to show you that I kind of didn't want to include, kind of did because it's not really Kurds, but it's kind of is. So there's this flag here. This is the flag of Iraq from 1959 to 1963. And fun fact is it's meant to include all the parts of Iraq back in the day because they were struggling with identity. So the Kurdish sun is actually at the center of it, and it was supposed to be the Kurdish sun. And then there's the ancient red sun of Mesopotamia around it to include all the other ethnicities that are more ancient Iraq and not Arab. And fun fact here is that you can only fly 2 flags in the Kurdistan regional government. It's the modern Kurdistan flag and this one, because if for some reason you were going to fly this flag, it's illegal because it has the Kurdish sun on it, and it was one of the Kurdish approved flags back in the day. And then afterwards, the Kurds, got shafted, and then basically this became the flag, and it became Arab again. But yeah, other than that, I hope I didn't go on for too long. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Wow, Dom, thank you. That is a tremendous amount of information. And there's some very interesting comments in the chat if people.
Oh, there's a lot of comments. I didn't even see.
Yeah. And so we appreciate that. Thank you very much. I can't wait till you get this organized into your paper. And I'm also looking forward to talking to you when you get back from Azerbaijan about the Azerbaijani flags.
Yes,
So
I'm going to
thank you.
Azerbaijan for my study abroad, which will be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's great. We've got a Vexi bit now from Anthony Yasso. Are you ready, Anthony, or?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I just have a quick one. You never know what's gonna surface. I'll share my screen real quick here. Just 1 second. So this is a new flag added to my collection, and it surfaced. This is a case of the kind of the old car that you would find in a garage somewhere that you're kind of shocked when you actually see and find. I'll share my screen real quick. This is just off of the Rare Flag site, and I posted the flag up there. But this flag came out from an attic, actually, and it was discovered in Johnstown, Ohio, and on a farm called Walker Farm a few months ago. And it's a very interesting flag from another number of different aspects. One of the aspects is obviously the inclusion of an eagle in the canton of the flag. This flag is a 31-star flag for California statehood. You can see the medallion pattern flag here, which is an unusual medallion. It has the 3 stars above and 3 stars below, but obviously the most striking aspect of the flag is what you see with the eagle in the center, a very folky eagle. It has an unusual number of stripes you can see, and the bottom stripe appears to be missing. But you'll notice, stylistically, the style of the eagle with its head turned and canted to one side is very similar to the eagles that were prevalent in the 19th century. And actually, that style of eagles was used on American coinage between 1807 and 1891. So over a long range, Americans saw that style of eagle. Stylistically, there are a few American flags that have an eagle in the canton of a similar type of eagle style, but very, very folky. And then one of the things too I wanted to mention, and let me see if I can show a couple things. When the flag was found, you notice the damage on the flag here. And so a lot of times, there's always speculation about what could have caused the damage on the flag. But in reality, this type of pattern that you see in the damage is really due to rodent damage. It was folded. You can see where it was chewed through along where the places where it was folded. But the interesting thing is that if you conserve and back flags or frame flags, then the approach is to always back it with fabric of a similar color. And so I've just photoshopped it because I haven't framed this flag at this point, but you can see though, if you were to back it, you know, you can, this is just using some Photoshop of the actual flag material, but with light color fabric behind it, you know, it's relatively straightforward to restore a flag and make it look like it's complete, even if it has this type of damage that's on it. So, you know, this is the kind of thing you'd expect to see from a barn find or an attic find of an antique flag. And this particular flag is 31 stars for California statehood. So it's a pre-Civil War flag from between 1850 and 1858, and was just a really fun and interesting one to go and find, and then actually go out to the auction and bid on it there at the farm on a muddy, rainy day, and you know, see what you can still find. So for everybody who still likes hunting and finding flags, there's always new things that always turn up, and there's also still mystery on these flags. You know, the reason for the stripe count is always unknown. I just tend to think that there's not necessarily symbology in all of the decisions made, but simply it's already a very folky flag, and they use the materials that they had at hand, and this is the design that they did for the flag. So yeah, just wanted to share that one, and I was interested to find it, and always fun to see something new that you don't see very often. So
Thank you, Anthony. And for those who haven't visited Anthony's website yet, it's you can spend a lot of time looking at some fantastic flags. Thanks again.
sure, thanks.
We are going to hear the announcement from Gus.
Thank you, Jack. It's just a short announcement. I'm doing a survey about what people consider, and especially it's going to be at this moment located to two flags. I'm going to send a message with everybody so you can do the research and answer to me on my email. Otherwise, we are not going to be here. We are going to be here actually until tomorrow. Do you consider the flag of the Dominican Republic and Brazil either as a bicolor or tricolor? There is a discrepancy. This is just a survey. There are no wrong answers. So please go ahead. If you want to participate, it's fine. If not, no problem. But I would like to hear the opinion of a scholarly group as this, because the natives of those countries, which I visited quite, not often, but Brazil more than the Dominican Republic, they are extremely a discrepancy about that. Thank you very much. That's it. Thank you, guys.
And what I will do is I will send around an email to everybody with Gus's contact information and the questions, so you can answer the questions directly to him. And I'll send them out that out later today after the meeting.
Fine, Jack, it's up to you.
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
And thank you, Gus. We now have a presentation from another one of our first-time members. Nate, take it away.
Thanks. This is going to be a slightly shorter presentation.
That's
Trying to
fine.
find out how I can share a slideshow.
Don't worry about it, Nate. I went on for way too long. I didn't even know I was talking for that long, so I'm sorry.
All right. So if I present, all right, never mind. I'll just present this. So this is a slideshow about like the very slight changes in flags, mostly the flag's colors, that have political implications, and that makes a big difference. So right here, there's 3 different flags of Puerto Rico. You might not even be able to see the difference between some of them on Zoom, but there is a difference between all of them, very significant. This middle one right here, this sort of like medium shade of blue, that's the official flag of Puerto Rico. You see the official color thing here. That's like the U.S. How do I go back? All right, there we go. That's like the U.S. official mandated one. And this darker blue you can see on the far left, it matches the the United States flag, which is what is used for protesting for statehood, which is, I think, a majority of Puerto Ricans support as of 2020. And this last one is much less common. It's a much lighter, more turquoise blue, like more of a Caribbean flag, one might think, which is used to show Puerto Rican independence. You can see that also there's a darker red of the stripes. And this is used mostly for independence protests. As you can see up here, there's a mix. So these are just like, these can be very politicized flags. If you see the middle blue one, the official one, odds are, it's like, it's not making a political statement. And if you see one of the other ones, it could, just be a normal, somebody just bought a flag, but it also, like, depending on the context, it could be making some sort of statement. So the next example is one that was in the news recently. Emmanuel Macron, there was rumors that he was going to change the flag. There's basically two official French flags. There's the one on the top left, the darker blue, and the one on the bottom left, the bottom right, which is a lighter blue. And the bottom right one was actually added in the 50s to show once France joined the EU, because the blue matches the. It doesn't appear as well here, but the blue is much more similar to the lighter shade of blue on the EU flag. So they're both official, but it just depends which one you're using. And as you can, the rumors started because there was, as you can see, like over here, by the way, the different shades. There's rumors that Emmanuel Macron would change it to the darker blue, which caused a lot of controversy because the darker blue is the one used by, it's the one that can be used by the more nationalist protesters, the one who thinks that France should be independent, should be less connected to Europe because it is different than the EU one, whereas the other one is used by the people who are more in favor of globalism and of France being like a part of the EU because it matches the blue of the EU. It shows it's a more like globalist flag. These rumors were false, but it was just an interesting mini flag scandal for a little bit.
Yeah,
Last
but you put a
example.
soda in there, it's gonna come out shaking up.
And this last example was also in the news.
I softly
recently.
rolled you a can.
Perez had a president for a while that was seen as pretty corrupt and unpopular. And when the new president was sworn in, they actually changed the flag to this lighter blue. I'm not sure if the proportions were changed for any reason, but as you can see here, he's wearing a pin with the former dark blue flag. This was the flag for a very long time. It matches the flags of El Salvador and Nicaragua. And then as you can see, the new president, she is wearing the new colors of Honduras, which is this much more lighter turquoise blue. And I'm not exactly sure if the lighter shade is significant, but I think it showed sort of a new era, more progress for the country. So why does this matter? Mostly it doesn't matter tremendously, but as I'm hearing, many of us do have flags and enjoy flying them and collecting them. So it is just important to be mindful sometimes that the flags that you are flying or the flags that you're displaying can carry some political messages, whether or not you're supporting a specific side. Just important to make sure that the flag that you're flying is not going to be too controversial. It's not going to, unless you want to make a statement, but you never know like what exactly you could be saying by flying a specific flag. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Nathan. That was a really impressive presentation. Does anyone have any comments or things they'd like to say to Nathan?
Nathan, I thought that was great, man. I literally just did this with the Puerto Rican flag not 2 weeks ago. My kid had a presentation on the Puerto Rican flag, and we made a big, the big poster board thing that 8-year-olds have. And, we painted it dark blue. I assume Puerto Rico's flag's dark blue. What did you say dark blue is? What is that?
The darkest blue, sort of like this navy color, is the statehood one. It's U.S. statehood, and then like it matches the U.S. flag. And the lighter blue is.
Okay. All right. Very cool.
Great.
I think that's great, man. This is a great presentation.
David's got his hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, about the French flag. I think your take on the colors is a little bit off. The Macron, quote, decreed a darker blue, I think it was last summer, but it's something that he did. And I'm not sure that it has any significance except perhaps a historic one. But it's not nationalist versus globalist.
That's interesting. I heard different things from the sources that I looked at, but I also can look more into this, and I can email the Chesapeake Bay Flag Association if I find out more about it.
Great. Gus?
Nathan, is quite interesting, especially the part about Honduras. I think it has been a confusion, and this has happened before. The way that the legislation of the 19th century, I think it was 1860, if not mistaken, described the shade of blue as Turqui, Turqui, which means dark blue. At that time, they didn't have Pantones, things like that. And someone have confused that to turquoise. And it had happened before. So that's why now they are changing this to say it shouldn't be dark blue, but should be, and it's funny because they say blue turquoise. Well, to me, turquoise is more green than blue, but nevertheless, it's a quite confusion. And if they don't really legislate this by a Pantone or any other system, we're going to have a bunch of different green turquoise flags, in Honduras. That's it. That's only a comment, Nathan. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Any other?
I'd like to just quick tell him that if he is ever at a live meeting, a live NAVA meeting, and Carmen from Canada is there, does anyone know her?
Oh, yes, sure.
She's chief of protocol for Canada, and chat with her sometime about having to pull rabbits out of the hat when suddenly she's told we're having a state dinner and the ambassador from such and such country is going to be there, and he says the color that we have for the orange in his flag is the wrong shade, and they jump through hoops, and she'll get with the embassies, and they'll say, well, what shade should it be? Give me a spec. And it'll say, well, just a little lighter, just a little darker. And she gets into situations where, well, your colleague down the hall in the protocol office says it should be a little darker, and you're saying it should be a little lighter. And there are many countries where they don't have like a Pantone number, where it just hasn't really ever been nailed down. So it's quite fun to talk to her. You should, if you ever get to meet with her, ask her about those types of stories.
I would love to. It sounds like a really cool job.
It is. Very good. Thanks again.
One comment, Jack.
Yes, Art.
This question of the turquoise and turquoise. Turquoise is often called Turkish blue. Okay. And it goes back to the 1700s. It's a French word for blue, but it means Turkish blue, not the turquoise green blue we think of for the ocean, particularly the Caribbean.
Okay. Great.
Hey,
Nick.
Jack.
Oh, wait a minute. Yes, Dan.
I just wanted to mention to Nathan that didn't one of our NAVA members present, maybe it was at Boston, a paper that ended up maybe in Raven on the flags in Puerto Rico?
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, it was in my speaker notes, but there is I got some information on this. There was an article, I don't know if it was presented, but it was in the Vexel, I think, from maybe June or July. So I think if you want more information on the history of that, the history of the different flag variations, you can look there.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure you were aware. That's it. Thanks, Jack.
Good. Thanks, Dan. Nick, we had to put you off from last can't hear you. You're muted.
There we go. Actually, I was asking my wife to keep the dogs quiet.
I'm sorry, we ran out of time last time for Nick's presentation, so I wanted to make sure we got him on today.
Good. All right, come on, wake up. Trying to get full screen here. All right, I presume you can hear me and see the presentation? Very good. Okay, I've titled this "The American Flag Used in Advertising from 1860s through 1900, Paper Flags, Victorian Trade Cards, and Cigar Box Labels." Okay, now the American flag wasn't always the popular icon we know it as today. In the early days of our republic, symbols such as the bald eagle, Miss Liberty, The Great Seal, and even George Washington himself were seen as images representing the young nation. The flag of 13 stars and 13 stripes was a functional device designed to identify ships at sea, and it was rarely seen on land. Indeed, the United States Army infantry was not authorized to carry the American flag until 1841. Now, the sectional divisions in the United States over the question of slavery led to the secession of Southern states and the formation of the Confederate States of America, and ultimately to a great civil war. Flags were essential in the battlefield to maintain order and to rally troops. Patriotism on both sides soared, and the manufacture and use of flags skyrocketed beyond that needed for the military itself. Flags were waved in parades and flown from buildings. And businesses soon recognized that associating their product with the American flag was good business. This advertising card from Connecticut for Yankee soap features a 36-star flag, which would place it late in the Civil War period or shortly thereafter. The Jay Gould's Picture Store of Boston goes a step further and places their entire advertising campaign across the stripes of a 37-star American flag, appropriate from the late 1860s to 1876. Now, hop bidders spread the word by creating a flag advertising their product that implores parents to keep this for the children on the heading, as it was designed to be pasted onto a small stick and waved, spreading the good news that hop bitters could cure all diseases of the stomach, bowels, blood, liver, kidney, and urinary organs. This was long before the Food and Drug Administration came along. Now, in 1873, Demarest's Young America used a similar format to advertise their magazine. The boys and girls who received this particular issue, cover you can see on the left, could open the cover and find 3 flags that noted a subscription cost of $1 per year. The intent, of course, was that the recipient would cut the flags apart, affix them to a stick, and give them to friends who now want to get this magazine for themselves. Ingenious form of advertising to little kids. Now, trade cards were one of the most prevalent forms of advertising in the United States from around 1875 to 1900. They had their origin in England in the 1700s with tradesmen advertising their wares. The advent of lithography in the 1870s made it possible to mass produce them in color. The Philadelphia 1876 Centennial Exhibition sparked the beginning, as many were passed out at that event. The cards were purchased by businesses from printers and then given to customers. This one advertises train service by the B&O Railroad to the fair. Now, this card, advertising for Tinsmith, uses the design of a flag produced and sold at the Centennial Exhibition in Philadelphia. In addition to the stars and stripes, it featured the flags of the countries that had exhibits at the World's Fair in that city. The same card was used by various businesses, and the printer would just change the text on the diagonal white band. Now, here's another case where the same cards were overprinted with information on various retail businesses. And apparently the Providence Furniture Company didn't mind promoting whichever candidate their customers supported. This card from Chicago features a 38-star flag, but it's as a background to the advertisement rather than being the ad itself. This presages the patriotic trade cards of the later 1800s. The use of the American flag as the bold graphic element of trade cards was limited, and many of these cards are very scarce today. But the range of products that fly the flag is amusing, from fertilizer to sewing machines to ham to shredded coconut. Other designs place the flag on the front, and the advertising contact is placed on the reverse so that the stars and stripes are not marred by the ad. This particular one can be dated to 1896, as it notes the flag now includes a star for the new state of Utah. Now, in some cards, presumably from the later 1800s, we find a greater emphasis on a respectful representation of the American flag, with the advertising playing second fiddle. Now, here's the first of 3 larger cards with beautiful flag graphics. This one caters to the ladies by featuring Betsy Ross, as well as shoes named after her. This card from the Out West Tent and Awning Company features the Whipple flag of 48 stars, where the designer Mr. Whipple, intended that the inner central great star represents the original 13 colonies, and the next circle of stars accounted for the 25 states that joined the Union up to the nation's centennial year. And the outer ring are the stars of the 10 states that joined between 1876 and 1912. Now, this third ad card shows the first standardized star pattern that was established by President Taft's executive order in 1912. Although technically the order only applied to flags purchased by government agencies, U.S. flag makers quickly standardized on that pattern. Now, furthermore, this card is unusual in that it offers a free American flag with the purchase of Wrigley's gum. Now, this is an example of an advertising scheme that would eventually be seen as being disrespectful to our nation's flag, and that of giving away the flag for purchasing some other product. It was in the very late 19th century that Americans began to see the use of the flag in political and commercial advertising as inappropriate. A Supreme Court case in 1905 determined that a state law could indeed be enforced to prohibit the flag to be used on a bottle of beer. Gradually, other forms of product promotion stopped using the flag. This pair of trade cards shows kittens on parade. Initially, the ones on the left show the kittens carrying American flags. And later, the stars and stripes were replaced by plain colored banners in respect for our national symbol. This is a good segue to a quick discussion of cigar box labels. This outer box label includes crossed flags above the scene of Spanish-American war generals discussing important war strategy, no doubt. The same label now omits the flags so as not to run afoul of any state laws against flag desecration. Earlier cigar label printers had no problem using a beautiful Miss Liberty and the American flag to sell their stogies. This one adds a lion, perhaps symbolizing the American triumph over Spain when it liberated Cuba in 1898. The shield with the Cuban flag and a scene from San Juan Harbor complete this overly patriotic design. Some designs actually focus on the history of the American flag. This brand is titled First Flag and notes that the first American flag was made at the Betsy Ross House in Philadelphia, as we all know, of course. Now, speaking of Betsy Ross, apparently she had a mild, pleasing quality about her, whether her cigar cost 5 cents or 6 cents. Now, these advertising flags, trade cards, and cigar labels are just samples of the many ways the American flag has been used to sell products. Many of these were essentially prohibited by the United States Flag Code adopted in the 1920s. Even though the flag code does not have the force of law, the flag fairly disappeared from most advertising in the early 20th century. Now, I'll end this brief presentation with one final cigar box label. It is a memorial to a historic figure of American history. Can anyone recognize who this label is honoring? It says they were born in 1822 and were involved in Mexico, Palo Alto, Veracruz, other locations. Fort Donelson, Shiloh, Pittsburgh, Siege of Vicksburg, surrender of Robert E. Lee at Appomattox in 1865, and a real good clue, President of the United States from 1869 to 1873. Grant, yes, Ulysses S. Grant. This was printed shortly after he passed in 1885. Okay, any questions, any comments?
Beautiful job.
John's got his hand up. John Andrews.
Yes, John.
I was trying to get my Ulysses S. Grant answer in.
Oh, okay. Very good.
As it started going down, I was like, I think this is Grant. I'm like, everyone's gonna get.
He was a popular Civil War general, not so great a political leader of the United States, but very much loved by the people. And as you know, he was able to finish his memoirs shortly before passing away so that his wife would not have to live destitute. Okay. Well, thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Nick. Nick, that's, and in case some of the members don't know this, these items are all from Nick's own collection.
Right. And hopefully I'll be able to use these. As I mentioned earlier, this is the third time I've done this. And I consider these as outlines to chapters on collecting flags and flag ephemera.
That's great. Really appreciate that.
Okay. welcome.
Okay, and now I'm having trouble finding people on my screen. Zachary, there you are. Zachary has something to talk to us about.
Hey everybody. When I first got the email, I saw that there was a thing for VexiBits, which is like a 5-minute presentation. I thought that was really interesting. So I decided to make one for my first ever meeting. So I didn't really know what they were about, but I decided to make one for the flag of Annapolis, which is where I'm originally from, and I actually have right next to me the flag right here on my desk. But it's just going to be a quick, brief history of it, and I found the history to be really interesting for a seal on a bedsheet style flag. So let me just go ahead and try to share my screen. Can y'all see that okay?
Yes, we can see it.
All right. Awesome. So this is a short little presentation on the flag of Annapolis and its history. So just a brief little description. The flag of Annapolis is a white banner. On top of it is the royal badge of Queen Anne, which you can see on the right side. It's also serves as the seal of Annapolis. On the badge is a purple thistle, a red Tudor rose, a crown, and a heraldic scroll, which states Vixi Liber et Moriar, which I'll go into the symbolic details later. But it was designed, the city council asked the Peggy Stewart Tea Party from the Daughters of the American Revolution to design one for the city. Let me just move this. So even the white background of the flag has meaning. It wasn't just chosen randomly. The background was the militia flag of Sir Francis Nicholson, who was the governor of Maryland from 1964 to 1968. And he was an avid member of the Church of England, and Maryland was one of the most religiously free states during the time. There was.
I hate to interrupt, but check those dates.
Oh, I think I said 1964.
They're pretty good.
Oh my gosh, my apologies. I believe that is much earlier than what that states. I can get the date for you right now, actually.
That'll be 1600.
It was 16. I think I swapped the 9 and the 6, so it's 1694 to 1698. All right, so now that that's been cleared up, he decided to move the capital from St. Mary's City, which was a heavily Catholic capital, to the middle of basically nowhere during the time, a town called Anne Arundelstown, and which would later become Annapolis, and the county would later be called Anne Arundel County, named after Queen Anne. And he helped design the city, and he helped structure the architecture and the sort of aesthetic of the city that you see today. So they used the white background, which was his militia banner. He was a general as well in the British Army. So on the seal, the purple thistle represents the Stuart family and Scotland, and the Tudor rose represents the Tudor family and a united England. And this seal was created right after the War of the Roses, where England had an internal civil war to determine who would become the next head of the throne. And in the end, the House of Tudor was victorious. And so you see the red rose on there. And there are different versions of the flag of Annapolis, which contains different types of roses. On one of the types of roses, there's little red dots representing the House of Lancaster and the House of York, which were the two warring parties during the War of the Roses. And in another version, there's a small white rose within the larger red rose, also representing the British houses of Lancaster and the House of York. All right. On the bottom of the banner, it says Vixi Liber et Moriar, and this translates to I have lived free and will die so. And it doesn't actually have much of a significance to Annapolis. It was simply chosen because it was acceptable, as the designer wrote, but it could be a reference to perhaps religious freedom in Maryland, since Maryland had a lot of religious conflict, as stated. And the crown above it serves as a tribute to Queen Anne, who first chartered the colonists to travel to and found the city of Annapolis. And the crown was first specified as having a large green stone at the peak, one large purple stone, 2 small green stones, 2 small red stones, and 24 small white stones. And the version of this flag is still hanging in the Maryland Capitol building, I believe. However, because of how detailed it was on the flag, it was reduced down to all the stones being black. And you can see on the flag that I put in there, there's no 24 white stones underneath of the gems. It's simply a couple of black dots. But yeah, that's my presentation on the flag of Annapolis.
Very well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Zachary. I look forward to future presentations. And that's very appropriate that we have for the Chesapeake Bay Flag Association presentation on a local flag. Really appreciate that. The next person who's going to talk to us is our friend John Andrews, who has moved far away, but still manages to make it on Zoom. Before we get to you, John, Gus has his hand up.
Yes, just for Zachary, I don't know if you're familiar with the flag of Queens, and as you can see, quite similar, but because this is New York, it's the red Tudor rose and the tulip of the Dutch. Just a symbol of how trends sometimes copy themselves. That's it, Zach.
Thank you, Gus. Thank you.
Really
So,
interesting.
yeah, Zachary, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's really interesting because the symbol on there symbolizes the connection between the Dutch heritage and the British heritage of New York, since the Dutch first founded it. And then on my flag, it represents the connection between Scotland and England, one being Catholic and one being Protestant. So I find that really interesting.
Okay, thanks again. John, you ready to go?
Ready to go.
Let's hear.
All right. So I wanted to talk today about a tool set that I made for vexillologists to use. This is really just a one-stop shop, or it's hopefully to be, to open up some research resources that people may not be familiar with, or they may have lost touch with, or what have you. One of these situations we're in today is we're inundated with search tools like Google, and Google's very, very dominant search engine. You know, it's the most dominant search engine in the world. You know, YouTube's number 2. And what ends up happening is we have like this kind of Googleification of home research, right? We're stuck in our houses. Vexillological research is very difficult, right? You don't just go to the library and say, give me all your books on flags. It doesn't work like that. And we all have to develop these kind of homebrew research methods that, as time goes on, they either ossify or, you know, you reach a point with your research where you throw your hands up and you move on. So what I did here is I made a toolkit for either experienced researchers, novices. It will work either way. And it's incorporating a lot of the more modern research techniques and research standards to augment, you know, maybe some skills we had picked up in the past, or it helps you develop skills from the bottom up. So this is a dedicated research tool set. It's called the Vexillo file. a tentative name. We're still in a testing phase on it. It's a website dedicated strictly for flag research. It's, like I said, it's dedicated. It's designed to meet a varying degree of research needs, but really this is actually more for researchers who have some experience in it. One of the downsides is it's currently being hosted by Rutgers using the LibGuide platform. LibGuide is it's a platform commonly used in library science, and it allows people to build these very, very quick websites with virtually no experience in web development. One of its downsides is I don't own this thing. You know, if Rutgers decides they wanted to bring it down tomorrow, they said they wouldn't do that, but they could, you know. So one of these things long-term is migrating it over onto a platform that I have full control over. This is another downside. This is a horrendous URL that goes to this search guide. I've copied and pasted it. I put it in the chat. We're gonna have to find a way to get it to everyone. You can screenshot it. One of the problems with this website, if you search the Vexillophile or LibGuide Vexillology or something like that, you will not find my website. I have not done any SEO on it. It's just out there. If you don't have this URL, you're not going to find it relatively easily. So without further ado, let's take a look at it. Can you see the website now? Looks like something like that. It's got a handsome guy on it. Looks just like me. No, here, I'll tell you what, let's do this.
We see it.
You see it. Okay, great. So if you click that URL, this is what you get. You get this good looking guy named John Andrews here. It's me here in DC. And we'll have a number of tabs. This first one on the getting started page, I've put some TED Talks in here. These are the prominent ones that everyone knows from TED. The Roman Mars talk. And if you had no experience of what a vexillological talk should look like, or what's around there, maybe you could start with something like this. We've got information on developing a research topic. If you've never written in a research paper before, or you'd like to brush up, these are 4 little guides on them. And these are a link over to other LibGuides and to other articles on this topic. We've got style guides. You can pick your poison. I focused on APA and Chicago Manual of Style. It's probably the 2 most common that were written in. I believe we are Chicago in NAVA, but still we should have something there. A little information on cloud-based note-taking. This is huge right now, is to have note-taking that you can exist across all platforms between your laptop, your mobile device, and anywhere you're going. If you're on your phone, you go, I've got a great idea for a paper, and you pull it out and you use one of these resources like Evernote, which are free. These are outstanding research tools. And if you click on anything in here, this is a whole section on cloud-based note-taking if you have interest in that. I took forever to be converted to cloud-based note-taking. I was like John Nash from Beautiful Mind. I had all kinds of stuff on the walls with like strings going to it and stuff. And it took me a long time to kind of come to this. This is also a section on citation management. If you have any experience with how to cite our sources, what these tools will do, again, free of charge. We'll actually pull them off the internet. You put them in there and it actually create a bibliography and a notes section for you. The standard is Zotero, but there are other ones out there. People like Zotero because it's free and it works pretty good. Moving along, our first research toolbox, which is just this tab up here. I've linked us to some common links that I think are pretty good and that we should always start with if we have a project or a broad question. Using the Library of Congress and the National Archives, the digitization on both of those are great. Often if I have a question about a country or something like that, if I was doing Iran or something, I would go to the National Archives or go to the Library of Congress, type in the word Iran and pick and see what they are offering to us, right off the bat, what resources are available that I can draw from day one without having to constantly redo work on this. Each one of these segment here, this is a link. If you click on here, it'll actually literally take you to the National Archives page, which is not cooperating, of course. It's making a liar out of me. Did I just crash my own website? Okay, we're not gonna get risky. But if you go to these National Archive pages, it will actually link to it. Each one of these things has a short video. If you're unfamiliar with this resource, it'll tell you about this. This is WorldCat OCLC. This is a consortium search tool that will show you local libraries that may have books of things that you're looking about. So if you want to do the book on Iran, you go in there and you type in flags of Iran, it will show you which libraries within your geographic area may have that book. From there, you just need to come up with some kind of arrangement with them for borrowing, especially if it's an academic library that you don't have experience, you don't have borrowing privileges with. This National Archives is the British National Archives. It's a pretty good one to have a hold of. Again, a little video on there. You can click that as well. New York Public Library is another one of these underused, undervalued resources. Most people saying, because I don't live in New York. Most people do not live in New York. There are various ways of getting access to it. It also has some, if you can get a library card, you can get borrowing privileges, which you can actually get them on a temporary basis if you don't live in New York. They have features something called scan and deliver, where they will actually find documents for you, scan them, and email them to you free of cost. That is a premium research service that costs $0. That's available for you, that has New York Public Library librarians at your disposal for basically nothing. Open Library is a scanned book resource. Open Library and Google Books are from a day when we thought we were going to digitize every book in the world. Until the reality of copyright infringement hit us. So what Open Library and things like Internet Archive down here and then Universal Digital Library does for you is that it will host tons of books on a lot of times older, obscure topics. And these are other places that you can go as a vexillologist and type in flags of Britain, flags of Iran, and it's going to turn up some book from the 20s that you weren't familiar with, that it just kind of pops up there. Project Gutenberg is another one of these older books. Project Gutenberg saves and digitizes books that are in the public domain, so there's no copyright issue with it. Here was one I found, British Flags, 1922 by W.G. Perrin. I don't know anything about that. I don't work on British flags, but I did find it and I thought it was cool, and I thought it was something worth putting in there. Likewise, a video on it. I think CIA World Factbook is another one of these resources that almost everyone always ignores. It's free, it's great, it's constantly kept up to date. It's got a lot of heavy lifting and research done for us by other people. I think one of the ways to streamline our research online is to get other people to do our work for us. All right. So if somebody has found the answer prior to us, constantly reinventing the wheel on basic research by just Googling it or going to something like that is a lot of times a waste of time. And you're exerting, as a scholar, we should save our energy for the big questions and let somebody else do the little questions, because they've done that for us already. Like the other one's a video on CIA World Factbook if you haven't used it before. Very, very easy, very intuitive. This is an odd free library. This is the Perseus Digital Library. It's got older sources, German sources. It's a mixed bunch. I found one that had Confederate newspapers in it. It's very, very strange how they preserve and digitize their sources. Again, not knowing what any of us are researching on, this is a broad shot. If you're working on Confederate flags, that might be a good place to start. Moving along. We have Google searches. I know I said we talk too much about Google. What each one of these tabs will do is it focuses in on 4 aspects of Google for you to use. Rather than using what we call a standard search, you can use an advanced search. If we click on Google Advanced Search, it actually has more fields for us to fill in to filter out all the crap and all the garbage on there that we've seen or we're not interested in. If we're trying to get very, very granular on our research while we're never leaving home, we're just using the Google engine, we should use this. Google has privacy issues. Google has all kinds of junk and baggage associated with using it. But I've found that when I use things that are, sources like DuckDuckGo or Brave or any of these other websites or any of these other search engines that focus on privacy, they cannot match what Google does. All right. It's just too powerful. So using your advanced search, you're going to want to put in things like, Confederate flags, the Confederate flag, any of these words, exclude the words, 1960, or exclude the word racist, or whatever you're going to put in it to hone in on your research. That I specifically mean, say, the Confederate flag in 1864 or something like that. This can help. Moving back to where we have Google Scholar. I think Google Scholar is an overrated search resource for a number of reasons. It should connect you with scholarly articles on your topic, but oftentimes they're behind paywalls, and I'll show you to get around the paywall in a second. But sometimes it'll link you to articles that are available insofar that they're indexed, which means they're linked to a search engine that has those journal articles. So Raven may be linked on there as a good example, but there may be other vexillological resources or other niche sources that are not available on Google. This is Google NVRAM Viewer. If you were familiar with it, I love this tool, and we'll just look at it real quick and play around with it. What it shows, it charts the evolution of words across time based on a scanned book set of about 6 million books. Part of the Google, one of the side effects of Google's universal book scanning process to build a universal library was that we developed a lot of metadata on what words are. So I love this one here. You know, this one's got Einstein, Sherlock Holmes, Frankenstein. We'll just get rid of that for a second. Let's put in the word flag. We'll separate it with a comma and we'll go banner. And what this will do for us is this will graphically represent for us the growth of the use of words. Well, it turns out the peak of use of the word flag was in 1863 in English. I can only imagine what that was connected to, but how it kind of comes and ebbs and flows. And, you know, one of the things we can do as a flag scholar is saying, you know, if people were not, if interest or speaking about the American flag or flags in general fell to an all-time low in 1876, which is strange, right? We would expect that to be much, much higher. What was it about this period? We can draw some inferences which are graphically represented for us. We can do that from the comfort of our home. We don't have to reinvent the wheel to say something about that period. The engine will assist us with that. Of course, do the due diligence, but that's something else that we can put in our pocket as a researcher. It can help us get outside the box and think about flags in a little bit of different ways. Google Books, again, this is another one of those places you can go. What Google Books will also do as a search engine, it will connect you to paid version of those books. So if you just absolutely have to have a book and you can't get it through a library and you don't have, you know, you don't have a link to academic sources, Google Books can sometimes help with that. Next one I just want to show, these are ones we're all familiar with. You know, we've got our home. This is honestly for a flag research website. This is where the weakest is. I've got some feedback from it from people. You know, it's got FOTW, it's got NAVA, Flag Heritage Foundation, which while I think is great, is also underutilized a lot of times. FIVA, you know, all the basic stuff here. This was the section that will grow over time as I get feedback on it. So I don't want to tarry with those. This is a collection of premium databases. These are paid databases that often cost an arm and a leg. All right, these are ones that as private, non-institutional researchers, a lot of times we have time accessing. So what we should do is what I would recommend doing is check your public libraries, because what happens with public libraries is they have budgets for database access that are underutilized. One of them is this one here is JSTOR. JSTOR is probably the greatest repository next to this and ProQuest. These are probably the greatest repository of academic journal articles available today. You have to use JSTOR if you don't have access to an academic library. And if you do, this is what it's going to go through JSTOR. It's how it's going to work on it. Many, many public libraries have at JSTOR access. They're spending money on it. It's being underutilized. My public library has it. And it's just one of these things you should have in your pocket. If you're going to do a research on a topic, you should do some due diligence in JSTOR. Same thing with ProQuest. ProQuest is less common to have, but it's probably a little bit better. Dow Jones, Factiva, your libraries won't have access to it, but it is something that it may be for niche researchers. You may want to take a look at that one. LexisNexis, again, is going to be niche, but I have information for it on there. New York Times database is a database that is going back to 1851. It is likely to be available for you in your public library free of charge. It's another one of those go-to ones. Whenever I have a question about a niche period or I need a citation on something that may have happened 150 years ago, I go to New York Public Library and I check it out, or New York Times. That's Alexa telling me I should do chores. The Oxford English Dictionary is, sorry guys. Oxford English Dictionary is another one of these resources that your library should have. It will chart the growth of words. I'm in it right now doing research on it. It's something that you should have in your toolkit. And it's a great database to mess around with. Some of these are less usable or less available for. This is Punch. Punch ran from 1841 to 1990s as a British resource. It cost $8,000. It cost a gajillion dollars to get access to. If you're ever in a situation that you can research using the Punch database, you should take opportunity to do it. Most libraries don't have it, and I include that even in big academic libraries. For me, if I was researching British Empire, or I wanted to do British Empire in the 19th century to its end in the 1900s, I would use this Punch database. I would find some way to do it, and I think there's a gold mine in there, and because it's behind a fabulously expensive paywall, it's tough to access. And these are some premium databases. A lot of these are pie in the sky. I do want to just close with two simple ones. This is another one we don't use enough, especially if you're not a 20th century researcher. If you're a 20th century flag researcher, this is FOIA. This is Freedom of Information Act. You can file Freedom of Information Acts with the federal government. They have to comply within 180 days, or there's some it can instigate problems for them. I have one out with State Department right now on a flag. And what's great about FOIA is you file, and you can find this link here. This will take you to foia.gov. And it'll take you through the steps of how to actually file a formal records request with the federal government, which they are duty bound to comply with. Again, they have ways of avoiding it and all the kinds of things like that. But this is another one of those from the comfort of your home where you can get a researcher to do some work for you. It comes in with a built-in free research assistant that's basically doing that stuff for you. There's a little video here on how FOIA works. It's from Washington Post. I think it's a very good video and a good information on it. Last but not least, I have built for us a custom vexillological search engine. And this is a Google custom engine powered by Google. Again, we're all kind of beholden to it at this point. And what this does is this aggregates sources from just these 10 sources that I've picked for us here. If you don't like these 10 sources, you can throw them out. This will show you how to build your own custom search engine. You can really do it with anything. It doesn't have to be about flags. You do financial information. I built one on veterans resources once. You can really do about anything. So if I go Ukraine, if I go Ukraine, what this should pick up, oh my God, I spelled it right. Thank God. All right. It should bring in sources from those websites about Ukraine. We got FOTW maps. There's an old stuff map here from, I think from Library of Congress. It's got a map of Kyiv in it from, a long time ago. I don't know what that would be used for, but if you were doing a comprehensive history of the flag of Ukraine, sources from the 1970s on Ukraine would kind of be useful. Of course, it's making a liar out of me, and I have long since dominated the conversation. So I'm going to close it out there. Those are our tabs. I'll do it right now. I will put the, nope. I want to stop sharing. How do I stop sharing? Oh, the big button that says stop sharing. And I know that's a lot to shotgun, and I do apologize, but that's the only way to really do the live website is to go play around with it. And if you have any questions for me, I'd love to hear them. Thank you.
I got a question for you, John.
Yes, sir.
How can we hook this up with the NAVA website? This is kind of a no-brainer. Something all vexillologists ought to be able to know about.
I think take the link now, and if we can get it to the webmaster of our website and tell them you'd like a link to the Vexilla file libguide, or you can have them email directly, or I can email them. And again, I've been assured that this website's never going to be taken down, and there's never going to be access issues. I'm getting burned right now with the University of Maryland with stuff that I did with them that I was told I would have access forever. And it's one of these things that, as time goes on, we need to navigate this into something that one of us owns. But right now, by all means, all you have to do is take the link and have it installed.
Yeah, we can do that. I just wondered if, apropos of what you just got through saying, perhaps we can investigate NAVA hosting it ourselves.
Yes.
Because this is like I said, a no-brainer. This is basic vexillological stuff.
Yeah. And is it okay, John, then to put the URL up if I want to put it up on the CVFA website as well?
You can. It's fine. I mean, it belongs to the taxpayers in New Jersey. If you really want, at the end of the day, you want to split hairs on this. It's just LibGuide hosting is very, very expensive, and I can only just see it in the future where they start taking ours out, 3-4 years from now, as hopefully this project continues to grow. Yeah. I'd love any feedback about what sucks about this. If you guys hate about it, please.
Al, you've got your hand up.
It's a wonderful work, and I just want to address that really long URL, of course, because you don't have your own domain name, but you do know, right, about domain forwarding. So for less than $20, you could get flagtool.com. Yep. And have it just forward to that. Then you'd have, okay, you know about
that. That's the idea right now, is that the short fix is a forwarding URL. I'm still very new to this platform specifically, and I would just, in the future, I would love to take the code right off of it and just migrate it to a website and own. And my thinking is, I'm willing to bet this is something that I don't actually own that code. because everyone would do that, right? Over time, they would get LibGuide as a vendor, they would steal that website, and then they would just go, they would go to a Wix, or they would go to something else like that. So as I learn this platform more, that's hopefully what that happens.
That's great. Thank you so much, John. Thank you. I mean, this is such an important thing for anyone who's researching anything, not just flags. Really, really wonderful. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And sorry you're having trouble with the University of Maryland.
Well, they take my donations too. They always have their hand out.
Yeah, absolutely. Gus, you've got you. Oh no, Gus, just thumbs up. Stand thumbs up. All right, we're going to take about a 30-second break to stand up and to breathe. We haven't done that for a while. I'm just going to show you my beautiful full color picture on the back of my t-shirt. Can you see it?
Sit down.
Can you see it now?
That's good.
My brother brought me this shirt back from Pohnpei. I thought he would be the only person I would ever meet who had actually been to Pohnpei. And 6 weeks after he got home, I had a new medical student who was actually born in Pohnpei. So it's one of those interesting places which very few of us are ever going to get to.
Jack, Pohnpei, were you saying?
Pohnpei, P-O-N-P-E-I, formerly Ponape, P-O-N-A-P-E.
Okay.
Part of the Micronesia. Anyway, Stan, you've got some things to tell us. And then David's up.
Actually, I'm just going to pull a thread that Peter mentioned earlier and do a unpaid but hopefully enthusiastic promo for NAVA 56. It was mentioned for those of you that may not be aware or have not yet joined NAVA. Our annual meeting, NAVA 56, is going to be in St. Augustine's in June. Please go to the NAVA website for all the details and to sign up and make your reservations if need be with places to stay. Get an idea of what's at least in a macro sense what the activities will be, or at least what the breakout is. We're fleshing the schedule out. As a matter of fact, we have another committee meeting later on today. On the docket, which I'll be presenting to the committee today, is approval of the presentations and what folks will see for NAVA 56. And just to give you a teaser, potential presentations include everything. I'm going to glance off to the side here so I don't forget anything. But we've got a wide variety of things. We've got a critical look at flag design as a possible presentation, the use of dragons on flags by the Welsh and the Bhutanese people, a history and insight into the flag and state of Muskogee. I had heard about it, but it was interesting to see someone dive as deep as they did with it. Flags in protests and the reactions to those flags. This is specifically about a protest a number of decades ago, but still quite relevant in today's world. Flags and colonial ties, flags in classrooms as teaching tools, and flags and how they've been defined over the centuries outside their military use, meaning, off the battlefield, and how flags and their use have connections to things besides what we often connect them to as far as the military is concerned. So a wide variety of some fantastic research and background in our field. And I highly, highly recommend, of course, folks come and join us down in St. Augustine's. Wonderful weather. I've been there before a year or two ago. A fantastic place. I highly recommend that if you can be there longer than just through NAVA, before or after, stick around in the town and in the area. It's a fantastic place. So thank you, Jack. That's what I wanted to bring up to folks.
Yeah.
Peter, anything else?
I guess not.
What?
No, I was going to say, anything else you think I ought to mention?
Well, just that for those who haven't been to a NAVA meeting, we'll be doing some other things. We will have a guided tour of the Castillo, the fort in St. Augustine, because as you probably know, St. Augustine itself claims to be the oldest city in the United States, with some justification. We'll have a number of invited speakers from the local St. Augustine area who will give us actually a total of 3 presentations, 2 at the Preble lecture on Friday and 1 at the dinner on Saturday evening, about various aspects of how flags are related to St. Augustine or vice versa. And of course, if you've been to one of these meetings, you know, part of the fun is just, being with other people who have the same disease that we do. We're fascinated by these pieces of colored cloth, and most people can't understand that, but we certainly do. So just the camaraderie and so on is a fun aspect of them. So
Yeah.
hope to see you there. Like I said this morning, we've got, I think, about 30 members registered right now, and I'm hoping we'll get a lot more.
Good. Thank you. Yes, I've recently been reading about St. Augustine and its part in the history of the civil rights movement of the 1960s. It was a very, very brutal era down there. I think we'll get a chance to see how the city has changed in the last 50, 60 years, hopefully for the better.
By the way, surprisingly enough, this is the first time NAVA has ever had a meeting in Florida, ever since we were founded in 1967.
Mhm.
And we haven't
Okay.
had one in 2 years because of COVID. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, first time in 2 years we've had a meeting anywhere.
Yeah. It's like the third time we're going to be meeting in St. Augustine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's not really a joke, because what we've had to do twice now is roll over all the arrangements we'd made with the people down there. And of course, okay, this person's left, this person's in charge now, doesn't know anything about it. So it's been a real challenge to get all the pieces of the puzzle in place.
Pretty typical.
3 times.
Yeah, 3 times. Yeah.
But thank you, Jack.
Good. And now we're going on to David Wagner, and then we will finish up with a bunch of exhibits. David,
Heck, what am I supposed to be talking about?
you told me you were going to be talking about, now you're going to make me look for that email?
Yes.
Oh my God, did I not write it down? Something about Finland, David.
Yes.
History of Finnish symbols, or a flag in Finland that you recently saw, or something like that? No, okay.
Okay, go to somebody else and I'll come back.
Okay.
I'll look at my email.
Okay.
And by the way, while Jack is looking, just for those of you that are new or may not be aware, CBFA is an associated organization with NAVA.
Yes, we are. Yes, at great expense.
I'm going to eat.
Good. Christopher Madish, have you got something? Yes, good.
Should be down soon.
Okay, hello. I'm gonna look directly in the camera. So does anyone recognize the flag behind me?
Okay.
Take a look. It might look familiar, but it's not quite the same. Let me get out of the way.
Well, it's better from a design standpoint.
Oh, Cece, is he sharing his screen? I don't see him showing.
Look at my face.
Oh,
while
there,
I'm
I'm sorry,
talking.
there you
Yeah,
are.
you gotta look at the chat thing. I'm not sharing anything. You gotta look at my.
Put it on speaker view, Al.
No, I got it. Yeah.
Or you can pin me, whatever. Is anyone
Yeah.
familiar with these flags?
Yeah,
Some of them are upside down.
They're Swedish flags.
They're not upside down.
Answer that, or is that
There's no Cyrillic, if you notice. It's actually, well, it is an upside down Ukrainian flag. Or the Ukrainian flag is an upside down Silesian flag. Apparently, there's a really active part of southern Poland, Silesians, that want to be separate from Poland. And they have I guess, 3 different versions of the flag. One actually looks like the Confederate flag, or the popular Confederate flag, but with yellow and blue. Another version, and then there's the most popular one that I can tell that looks like the Ukrainian flag flipped upside down. But instead of having the trident, they have an eagle. Really can't see.
That's the eagle from the old coat of arms of
Yeah.
the Principality of Silesia, or the Duchy of
Silesians.
Silesia. Yeah.
So there's a small vocal sort of patriotic, we want to break away from Poland, get some autonomy. I don't know if it's going to get any traction, but it's just kind of a coincidence. I think I like to make those connections just to be aware of it.
I think
So-
that's very interesting. I wonder who these people are, because the Silesians were basically Germans who were
Right.
kicked out in 1945 and replaced by Poles from Eastern Poland. It's interesting to think that there's now a separatist movement.
Yeah, they say their language is different. It might be like a slight accent. I'm ignorant of this, throwing it out to you guys too, but it's just, I think it's interesting.
That's fascinating. Well, that'll have to be researched.
In Poland after World War II, Stalin moved the Polish populations out of the parts of Poland that he annexed in Eastern Poland and moved them all into Silesia and Pomerania. And so Polonized them, and of course kicked the Germans out. And so that's why the language is a little different.
David, do you remember what you were going to talk about?
Yeah, I think it was about that that email I sent you with it was in Vexabits or something, or in Semaphore, about the neighborhoods of Helsinki. And some artist in Helsinki went through the neighborhoods of the city and Kamppi, Katajanok, Krunohaka, and all this, and came up with flags for each neighborhood. And they have absolutely no official standing. And he was fairly careful with the color scheme, but the symbolism often just doesn't work. And I haven't been able to find the email I sent you or the neighborhoods of health.
And I can't go look while I'm recording the Zoom. It won't let me out of Zoom.
Okay, hold it. Nope, no hope at all.
Okay. Next time. Very
Yeah, next
good.
time.
Okay. Chris Bedwell, George Ripley, did either of you guys have anything for today to tell us about, show us? Well, as we're getting,
Well, I'd like to ask a few questions and then maybe show you something quickly.
idea.
I'm interested in all these new flags that the right, the movement of the right has done. They print their own flags. They come up with their own concept. It might be a photograph. It might be, a picture of Trump on a tank, waving a M16 or something. And these things have become available at a low expense. And so we might in the future see all kinds of different flags that are printed up by individuals to fly at any given protest or demonstration or rally. And so I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. And it seems like an interesting place that flags might move into. And I have my own. I've been working on it as, years ago, I got involved with you folks and glad to have been associated with you in one way or another all these years. And I've been working on this project for many years, and it's a concept that I came up with as a response to the gold fringe around the flag, which has become ubiquitous to the point that all our soldiers wear a flag with the gold fringe around it. And of course, you walk through the halls of Congress and all you see is gold, gold, gold. And so it becomes important, given that the stars and stripes, the red, white, and blue is the American flag, but the gold has become ubiquitous in all our most powerful institutions. And so then the question becomes, what is the gold a symbol of? And the gold is either a symbol of the sacred, the divine light and eternal values, or it's a symbol of the profane, man's earthly ambition and greed. And given that this is one of the most powerful symbols in the world, the American flag, which is it? And I think that by analyzing the finials on top of the flagpole, you come up with the idea, the notion that it's the profane. You've got on top of the flagpole the Imperial Roman eagle. It's the same eagle we blew off the Reichstag in Berlin when the Allies took over. It represents the imperial, in the lexicon of symbols, it represents the imperial power of the state or of Rome. Our armies march under it, Caesar's armies, Hitler's armies. And I don't think it reflects well on our values. Another traditional symbol is a spear point. Here's one that'll interest you. A friend of mine gave me this. See if you can see it. Yeah, there you go. It's the spear point, but on a finial of the Russian Soviet Union. But the Imperial Roman eagle, the spear point, and then the round metal ball on top of the flagpole. I've seen it referred to in catalogs as a cannonball. It might as well be a depleted uranium bomb or an assassin's bullet. All of these are militaristic symbols, and they all identify the gold not as the sacred, but as the profane. And that's very serious to me. And so what I've been working on for so long, but now I've oriented my life to where this is now the only major effort that I'm engaged in, is a flag that the green fringe represents and honors the grassroots. This is the constituency that every politician wants. And furthermore, it's not just the grassroots, but it's the grassroots of social justice. The flagpole I identify as a symbol of the central organizing principle around which we agree to unite. The flag being a symbol of our unity. The flagpole, what we agree to unite around, that one thing. And in this case, it's social justice, a world that works for everyone. And I hope there's a trend across the world towards that recognition. Then other symbols include the cannonball, which I suggest we might switch out for the blue-green planet. Why not? Recognize the sacred nature of our habitat. Also suggesting the sheaf of wheat rather than spear points. Why not spears of wheat? One of the most sacred and ancient symbols of all time, representing the abundance of God's gifts, the virtue of labor, environmental stewardship, and feeding the people. A third would be, rather than the Imperial Roman eagle, if you want a bird, the dove descending, bringing peace to earth. And so the question becomes, what is the, if social justice, represented by the flagpole, is our goal, how do we achieve it? Well, we achieve it at the ballot box. That's how we fix things in a democracy. And so we have to have a democracy that we can believe in, that we can trust. And so as I push this product line out across the country, 80% of the proceeds will go to support electoral reform groups that are working as a united front along the model of the American Federation of Labor, which labor in the United States only gained significant political power when they organized as a united front. And our efforts to reform elections and strengthen our democracy have been held up for several reasons. One is that all the different election reform groups were working as siloed entities with their own mailing lists and their own funding streams and so forth. That has failed us as a model, because working alone, we won't get there, because there's no political incentive for politicians to change the system whereby they got elected. So fixing democracy has been a real struggle for us. Although it is now, I will say, the largest political and civil rights issue in the country. It's the development of the movement for election reform is massive now. And so that's my story, and I've been sticking to it for many years, as Jack knows. But it's about to go. It's about to happen.
Good. Thank you. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've seen that and heard about it. So thank you very much, George. Peter,
also, I would ask, are there any patent attorneys in the crowd, or anybody that knows any patent attorneys that have done work with flags?
I don't think we have any attorneys.
Just curious. If anybody
Thank
knew
God.
of any, you can certainly contact me. I'll put my email in the chat.
Great. Thank you. Peter, did you have something? Peter Ensoff?
If you like, I can, this will just be one little thing, but if anyone would like to see an image of that new Revolutionary War flag that we discovered, I can put one up. I'll just
Yeah, like to see it. And then Al, you've got something for us too.
Yeah, this is only one slide, so we'll do that.
Great.
Let's see. Let me get it up here. Okay. And let me share screen. And here it is. Get you out of the way here. Now, this is a flag that we found out about basically through Jim Farragon, a flag that was discovered recently. We don't know a lot of details about when or where, but you can see it's a Revolutionary War era militia color, and it says 2nd Spartan Regiment. And there's a little bit of historical information about that. It was a South Carolina militia regiment that served in a number of engagements in the Revolutionary War, including the Battle of Cowpens. It was in the, if you know the Battle of Cowpens, it was in the original, the front militia line with the regulars behind them. It's a pretty interesting flag. It's apparently dates from late in the war, because the regiment wasn't founded until 1778, I think. But it has the canton with the stripes, which is sort of unusual. As you can see, it has scrolls, and we were having a lively discussion in the forum right now about the symbolism of the central emblems. As you have a snake and a creature, and I think the consensus seems to be that the creature is actually a lioness, which shows up on other Revolutionary War flags. It looks more like a dog in this image, but that's apparently not what it is. So this is a piece of new new stuff that no one knew this flag existed until just fairly recently. We're trying to find out more about it, and hopefully we'll have more. But that's the kind of thing we do.
That's great. Was the regiment from Spartanburg?
Well, at least one item I read said that actually it's the other way around. The Spartanburg was named after the regiment. So I'm not sure what the cause and effect there was.
Stan's got his hand up.
Yes, actually, it was dealing with what George was talking about. So I'll wait until after Peter's done.
Okay.
Right. Just I thought people like to see that. That's the kind of stuff we're looking at in the IAM.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Stan?
No, I was just going to mention to George, I wish I could remember his name, but you can probably find it on our NAVA website. The guy that, maybe Peter, you know, the guy that put together the 9/11 flag and has been using it across the country.
John Riley.
Say again?
John Riley. He emailed me this morning that something came up and he was unable to attend. He was actually going to talk about the how different state legislatures have been working to adopt his flag, the Freedom Flag.
Gotcha. Yeah, he gave a presentation, I think, at an earlier either CBFA or IM. But George, he might be someone to talk to regarding your questions because of what he has created with his flag.
Yeah, I'm very interested in any of these new flags that suddenly hit marketability. Is of course the police flag has been very successful and interesting.
Yeah,
I guess within 2 years they sold 50,000 of the 3x5s.
George, I'll send you John's contact information after the meeting so you could get in touch with him.
Thank you very much. I have some question for Christopher Bedwell. I noticed, caught you by surprise. I noticed that when you said earlier you were interested in the manufacture of flags. Talking with Jack out at CRW Flags, I forget his name, last name.
Wwyatt, Rick Wyatt.
Jack Wyatt.
Rick Wyatt.
Rick Wyatt,
yeah.
that's it.
Wyatt.
Anyway, he says that that availability of flags is significantly curtailed. Al, you might know more about this, but they've had CRW Flags has had to go through their catalog and reprice everything and get rid of some items that they couldn't carry anymore. And apparently it's been quite a shock because of COVID that there haven't been many employees able to work for the flag companies, the manufacturing companies, and that supplies are significantly diminished and difficult to get. Have you had that experience, Alan?
Oh yeah, that's the whole industry now is that way. So all manufacturers, like supply chain everywhere in any business, they only have half the workforce. They've had to reconfigure their factories to make more space in them, so they might not be able to get as many people in the same space as they had anyway. There's lots of waves of price increases. The flag business used to be that manufacturers did not even necessarily have a yearly price increase, and when they did have it, they would give you months' notice. Last year, there were 3 major waves of price increases. Amongst all of our suppliers, there were probably 10 or 15 different price increases in a single year. And now the way they come is you get an email at 10 o'clock on Thursday night saying, tomorrow there are new prices. They are eliminating much of their product lines so that they can focus on making other parts of their product lines. So they can't make everything they used to make because the demand is so high on their core products. So some companies have stopped making flags smaller than 3x5s, and there are very, very long lead times. So if a flag dealer doesn't have it in stock, American flags now can take months to get. I'm selling flags now that I bought a year ago because when this started 2 years ago, I knew exactly what was going to happen, and many other dealers did too. Started buying big, so you buy like a year's worth of stuff so that you don't run out. And that's the way it is, no matter what you want to buy. You know, you find somebody who's trying to buy a washing machine, or, you know, we've all heard those stories. And the flag business is exactly as you've now described it, just full of shortages, long lead times, and staggering price increases.
Al, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I got my Gettys. I got my not Gettysburg. I got my 9/11 flag. I bought it off their website, and they had like an exclusive vendor, and I think it was Gettysburg flags.
Oh, no, you know who's that? Gates has that. Gates in New Jersey.
I love my flag. It came out. It's one of the most beautiful things. I flew it all during September, and people loved it. But I wonder if like you can control the proliferation of a flag, but where you say, okay, this flag is exclusively made by this one vendor, and in the early stages of getting a new flag design off the ground, you can control that. Because I'm just a guy that's applying to law school right now, but I don't know that you can I don't know that you can make an intellectual copyright. I don't know that you can make an intellectual property claim on a work of art. I think it's not.
Well, wait a minute. Hold it. West Point does it. Marine Corps does it. Sports teams do it. I mean,
yeah, and I will add that even some municipalities will copyright. The city of Irving,
It's called a design patent, I think.
I think there's a very big difference between copyrights on, say, like Big Ten logos, or logos that, you know, on as opposed to a flag, which is a work of art. Again, not knowing anything about anything, flags seem to me to be something is going to instantly go into the public domain.
Well, how can West Point have their?
They're probably not. They're probably
What?
not challenged. You know, that's probably that copyright claims only go this is how they work in YouTube. When people put copyrighted material on YouTube, you can get what's known as a strike, right? And the way that YouTube works, YouTube doesn't actually adjudicate copyright. They adjudicate corporate policy based on how they interpret that. And it's just a hunch to me that it would be very difficult that if someone manufactured your copyrighted flag, that you would get any real relief in the court. And
John, if I can,
that's just a hunch. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just strikes me.
I can give you guys an example of a copyrighted flag that they seem to be, you know, I mean, it's basically up to whoever holds the copyright to kind of be doing the enforcement. But the Juneteenth flag for the middle of June, you'll see some different variations of it, but the original one is copyrighted by whatever individual or group regards themselves as having innovated the thing. And I talked with Rick Wyatt about this a while back because I wanted to get one custom made, and he said that they'd actually gotten into issues with that group to the point that they will send out like cease and desist letters. So a lot of it's up to the individual holder to enforce it, but they can do it.
This has been very much in the news in Australia. And those of you who belong to the FSA have read about it, but it's also been, you can find news items on the web about the Aboriginal flag and who has the rights to it. And that's an ongoing controversy now because the person who designed it sold his rights to a company that is, you know, makes all sorts of merchandise, and they are actively going after anybody else who uses it. And the Aboriginal community is sort of up in arms because they look upon that as their flag and don't think that someone should commercialize it.
Well, there's an update to that.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought
The
so.
Australian government purchased the copyright.
Right.
They now own it, so that now anybody can use it.
Okay, well, that's
But it's still a copyright, I guess, is the.
a good solution. How much did they pay for it?
It was, I don't know, I forget.
It was quite a
wasn't-
bit. Yeah.
Well, it
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
staggering as government stuff goes. It wasn't 50 million. was it?
I think it was about $40,000.
I think that's it. Yeah.
That's not much.
Yeah, no, not for government stuff, man.
Nick, maybe it's just the screen, but that looked yellow rather than red. Is that red on your,
You're right. I don't know why the tint is coming out yellow.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're right. They could have paid a lot more than $40,000 just on one legal case.
Yeah. Well, we've got a few minutes left before we're planning to end. And Al, I know you had a whole lot of stuff that you wanted to
Well, if
talk about, Shane.
I've got one longer, I'll just do the Vexy bit then, because I've got that other thing I showed you, and don't give it away because it's kind of a good meaty.
I won't say a word. Do
Let
your,
me-
do your Vexy bit.
Okay, let me, wait a minute. So I have to share the screen. You're gonna let me shoot, do you have to? Okay. So do you see a woman in the State of the Union address?
Yes, indeed.
So if any of you watched it and those that didn't, it was a fun event for flags. Again, the spirit of flying Ukrainian flags, I think, is so positive and happy, not for the result, of course, or not for the events, but the fact that people want to do it and they're doing it in a good spirit. They want to participate in showing their solidarity for those poor people. So it was fun to see examples throughout the House during the State of the Union address. Some of them very easy to spot, like this one. Some smaller examples there.
Who is that?
That right there is, isn't that, is that Joe Machin?
No.
Kevin
that's
McCarthy.
Kevin
Kevin
McCarthy.
McCarthy. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Minority.
He's the minority leader, right?
Yes.
Yes. So he's got a lapel and a handkerchief there. There's that same woman. Now, if you look around the House, you start spotting a lot of examples. Now look at the people, two women to the left. Do you see that? One's, they're standing side by side. Is this a coincidence? One has this yellow jacket, one has a blue jacket. Isn't that cool? Look at all those.
You know, the blue and yellow is sky over wheat. Okay, so that's how you know which is top and which is bottom.
Right, because from a design standpoint, it would be better the other way around since blue is a heavier color than yellow.
Unless you're from Silesia.
Unless you're from Silesia.
The one woman there in the outfit, she's a congresswoman, I forget from where, but she was born in the Ukraine. There's a lot of yellow ties there, so these guys didn't have blue, but at least they're participating with the yellow.
Cowardice.
Did anybody find that, any of you guys watch this speech? Did anybody else find it striking how fun it was that all these little examples were in there?
I think the Congress over the last decade or two has begun to understand the visual value of the State of Union address.
There's those two ladies to the left again, and look at that, it's a Ukrainian flag standing side by side.
Hey, Al, did you see the, I think it was in yesterday's output there, with one of the articles talking about the flag that was, the upper part was standard US and the bottom part, they changed to blue and yellow stripes.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
so it's a combo, US, Ukrainian.
Yeah, the author of the
Building.
article was not real happy with that, but I think the picture was taken out in front of the Capitol building or something.
There was a little some comments, and especially on conservative sides, that Kevin McCarthy was wearing like too much Ukrainian stuff, right? So he's got a Ukrainian some kind of lapel, a pocket square, and then he's got the flag, but he's not wearing the flag of his own country, and it's like you're the majority leader, you should. Whereas you have some people, or minority leader, you do see some people that have Ukrainian American friendship flags. I wear a
Plus
friendship flag
flags.
all the time, but I would never exclusively wear the flag of another country over my own. That's me personally. It for people that were very suspicious of I think Tucker Carlson talked about it like that. If we're very suspicious about the war drums being beaten right now, it's very, very telling that everyone instantly went lockstep on this. There's Jody Ernst with her stuff on. It is, and I support Ukraine 1,000%, but it is very strange. I will go with Al on that.
And it's also very interesting to see oftentimes when you have the crossed flags on pins, on lapel pins, how many of them do not have the American flag over the other countries. I mean,
now I got to check all of mine, man.
I've got one that was made in Germany where the German flag is over the US flag, which makes sense. But for ones that are made in the US flag should be on top.
John, I didn't get your point. Run that by me again. Tucker Carlson and drum beats and what do you find?
So what I think is Kevin McCarthy can wear whatever he wants. He doesn't represent me. I don't care, but it's personally, it's strange is that, we see a lot of these theatricality costumes that people wear at State of the Union. I think all the women had on white one year.
White last year. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it year before? And this kind of thing that Kevin McCarthy, who has a lot of problems with the populist side of the Republican Party, is going to wear flags that are not his own. What the point, I think it was Tucker Carlson, please don't hold me to that, was something like, we're all beating the drums to war right now. Right. And Kevin McCarthy, who represents, a large contingent of Americans, does not think to wear an American flag at the State of the Union, even though we are talking about, potentially a U.S. action, or, at least what we have going on right now. It's just very interesting.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to wind down the meeting a little early today. I think it's been a successful meeting. I was really happy to see a bunch of first timers, Zachary and Anthony. Thank you for staying on this whole time. It's been a pleasure to meet you. And Zachary, thank you for your presentation. Anthony, you'll have one for us next time. Anything else before we sign off? John?
Hope to see you in St. Augustine.
Yes. Well, you and I and Al and Stan are going to be there.
Yep.
Anybody? Is Chris Mattish, you coming?
I won't be in St. Augustine.
Yeah. Chris Bedwell, what about you? Can we hijack you? Bring you down?
Come
on down.
Come.
Come on down. The price is right. And we do have, do we have at this point any subsidies for students?
Not officially, but if that sort of thing is a problem, let us know. We'll discuss it. I'll leave it there.
Okay.
Yes, the chances are we can arrange something.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good to know. Thank you all very much. Stay well, and let's hope that we'll be able to press the flesh the next time.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for organizing this.
Christopher, one last thing. Could you put your email in the chat? I'd like to get in touch with you.
George, I can send you Chris's email.
All right.
I'll send you his contact info and also John Riley's contact info.
Zachary, come back again next time.
Yeah, great presentations by some of the young people. That was wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Signing out. Bye, everybody.
Hey, Jack, don't forget the email on Gus's question.
No, I've made a list of all the emails I have to do right now. Yes.
See, you host, and now you've got to do it.
You know what? That's my job, because otherwise I would have to research flags or something.
See you, Jack.
Okay.
Yeah. See you tonight, Stan.
Bye all.